All right, good morning and welcome to another beautiful Wednesday morning. Today, the 15th day of November 2023. By the kindest mercy of God, we've gathered again and we've entered another brand new day. There is a reason why God has given us today. You need to find out what that reason is if you don't know. When you find that reason, then you live after it, because you have to, in the fulfillment of that reason, is why God brought you into today. So I pray that we are all able to find out why we live in today and to be able to accomplish that particular objective for today. Be good to humanity, do your part, and make sure that you live this world in a better way than you came to meet it. Good morning once again. On behalf of the team, please welcome to the morning show here on the Joy News channel. We call it the AM show. My name is Samuel Kojo Brace. Inti Dikabla, wherever you are, baby, I will be Akwaba to the show. Well, today this is how we're going to do it. We'll have the news review. We'll be joined by political scientist and director of Center for European Studies at the University of Ghana, Dr. Kwame Asante. He will be joining us to review what the papers are reporting this morning. After that, we'll bring you the AM Sport. Muftau Nabila Abdullahi will be bringing us this segment. We understand that there's good news for our women team participating in the CAF Women's Champions League. We'll tell you much more about that when Muftau joins us on that segment. After that, we'll bring you our top stories. Now, from one budget cycle to another, last year, November 2022, the minister presented a budget for 2023. Today, Finance Minister Ken Ofrata will be presenting the budget for 2024 and the economic policy of the government in Parliament. Now, this presentation will outline government strategies for revenue generation and policies to alleviate the current economic challenges confronting all of us in Ghana. Now, we've got a conversation on this. Our guest today, Dr. Michael Ayamga, he is a development economist and senior lecturer at the University for Development Studies. Dr. Eric Boachi-Yadom, a senior lecturer, Banking and Finance Department at the UPSA. Dr. Patrick Itsumeng is economist at the University of Ghana Business School. Eric Amponsa Boateng is a tax consultant. Dr. Peter Anti is executive director for the Institute for Education Studies. Now, yesterday, Al-Hassan Souhini, who was MP, was proposing that the government should probably scrap the allowances it pays to teacher trainees and nursing trainees and focus on more areas. Will the educationists agree to this proposal? We have all of that here for you on the show. And you know what? It's a Wednesday. Ketsi Ecobank, the Pan-African Bank, would come your way with AM Business. Special gardens are poised to offer potential customers like you amazing offers at this year's Ecobank Joy News Habitat Fair. We'll bring you details later on the show. Now, also on the show today, we'll tell you about Achimota Speaks. There's a group of speakers who will be speaking about Ghana, a country in crisis, defining a new economic direction. What is it really about? We'll tell you much more about this event, which is coming up Thursday at the British Council. But we'll talk about it today on the show to prep you to understand what you should expect on this particular platform. Okay, so that's how it's going to be here on the show. From later on, would let you have the opportunity to also have your say on the issues that we'll be discussing, especially on the budget, because the budget is about you and about me. So on behalf of the team, I say stay with us and feel free. Join us on our social media platforms, on X, formerly Twitter, on Facebook, on YouTube, wherever. Thanks for making us a part of your morning. Welcome. Up next is the AM News. Welcome back. Let's do the AM News now. And resident of Odumase in the Sunyani West municipality are protesting the bad nature of the road leading to the district capital. Chairman of Odumase for Development, Mark Kofi Amwa, says appeals to fix and complete stuck projects are falling on deaf ears, a situation that continues to frustrate and affect the livelihood of residents. Precious Semevo has more.
Farmers, traders, and students were among the residents of Odumase, the capital of Sunyani West Municipality of the Bono region, who took to the streets to demonstrate over stuck road projects and other lack of development. The demonstrators held placards with inscriptions such as "Construct our roads before election 2024. We are part of Ghana," and marched from Odumase to present their petition to the regional minister at the coordinating council in Sunyani, describing their MCE as helpless. Mark Kofi Amwa is the chairman of Odumase for Development.
Before everything, we had issues with the road. And from Odumase low cost to SNET traffic light. The contractor, the road is supposed to be a dual carriage, number one. And the rumors we've received that the government is changing it to a single lane. They started the constructions, demolished people's property on the side of the road. They started building a bridge. The bridge is incomplete at this point, but the contractor has taken all his assets and he's gone. So the road has come to a complete halt. So the people of Odumase do not have a straight road coming to Sunyani anymore.
He said the situation is affecting the livelihoods of the residents.
The government workers, the individual workers that commute from Odumase to Sunyani, the business people, traders that use the main route, they cannot come easily. They have to go through diverse roads to come to Sunyani, which is improper. And also the farmlands going to time. So the bridge that the contractor started working on has been demolished. It's a problem right now for people of Odumase that are going to the farms. They can't go. The farmers that are coming, bringing their food stuff to Odumase, they also cannot come.
Regional Minister Justina Osubanahini praised the organizers for their peaceful conduct and promised to carry their concerns forward.
Forestry Commission and Ministry of Food and Agriculture. Our money now also at the Romuno. And then when you first Bessia, Nayakaya, yes, I say, I went to me, I am Nayakaya. They are so real swap, young to your smart, Miss Metra, so Mama put the Yakan so at their command. The Yakan and the command, Member was something. I'm going to say, what the buyer, man,
Mr. Amwa, however, said they would regroup if nothing positive was seen on the ground.
At this point in time, according to what the regional minister told us, she is going to forward our letter to the government. We have not given her any timeline. We are going to meet and come out with a timeline that if we don't hear anything from the regional minister, we're going to take another course of action.
Precious Semevo, Joy News, Sunyani.
Now, the Ghana College of Physicians and Surgeons has commenced its quest to decentralize and expand training for all specialists beyond teaching institutions in the country. Rector of the college, Professor Richard Adenu, who was speaking at the launch of the college's new training center in Achimota, says this will minimize the frustrations young doctors go through to specialize. And Sabet has more.
The Ghana College of Physicians and Surgeons in April this year announced its quest to decentralize and expand the training of all specialists beyond its two main specialized training centers. This, according to the rector of the college, Professor Richard Adenu, will, amongst other things, bring specialist training closer to the people, a move he says would help improve healthcare across the country.
We need for us to decentralize the training of specialist doctors. So currently, for doctors to specialize, they need to leave their regions, come mostly to either Kolibo or Komfanochi and get the training. But for us to speed up the training of specialist doctors and to make sure that we achieve the numbers that we need for the many hospitals that we are creating, it's important for us to begin to train in all regions of the country. So our target is that by 2030, there will be membership and fellowship training going on in all the regions of the country. So it's an important thing to do if we really want to get health to all the people in this country.
Professor Richard Adenu, who was speaking at the launch of the new Ghana College of Physicians and Surgeons Training Center in the Tichiman Holy Family Hospital, admonished the trainees to take their studies seriously to prove a point that specialist trainings can be done in hospitals outside Kolebu and Komfo-Anokye.
For the trainees, the doctors who have been trained here in Techiman, what I'll say to them is that they should apply themselves, get this training done in record time, so that the message can be sent round that it's possible to train people at the fellowship level for general specialties in hospitals outside our big hospitals.
Dr. Ufbawa is the leader of the medical support team from Germany who are partners to the program. He is optimistic that the partnership will build strong medical trainees and also help build Ghana's medical systems.
It's a big chance for the Holy Family Hospital. It's a big chance for us to get in a certain time that the project has its own medical education center, and we wish on the way all the best.
Executive Director of the Christian Health Association of Ghana, Dr. Peter Yeboah, on his part, noted that the partnership demonstrates CHAG's vision of ensuring access to quality healthcare and was quick to add that the decentralization of training for surgeons will help improve healthcare across the country.
This transformational policy of decentralization and expansion of the training of postgraduate members of the college, in terms of members and fellows, is actually important. It gives meaning to our collective agenda of ensuring the training and employment of highly skilled doctors to rural areas.
Chairman of the occasion and Ankobia Henny of the Techiman Traditional Council, Nana Amponsa Yeboah Takra II, underscored the relevance of the training facility and asked that the move would, amongst other things, enhance the economic activities of the area.
This accreditation, I believe, will serve as an immediate booster to this renowned institution. Also, it will enhance economic activities in Techiman and its environs. That is to say, not only are trainees going to receive knowledge here in the institution, but businesses in our communities will also see growth because trainees will patronize our wares as well.
That's one of the stories. The Ministry of Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs says it has a proposed national religious policy that will mobilize religious leaders for national development and peaceful coexistence. Sector Minister Stephen Asamoah believes their proposed policy, when approved, will tackle the growing concerns about religious practices and beliefs that undermine national development. Rejoice Semifak Besu has more in this report.
Population of the Minister for Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs, Stephen Boateng, was equally concerned about some religious practices that he says undermine national development and peace.
Today, hopefully, we begin to chart a path that will bring all stakeholders together, that we can all agree to go in a common direction. As I speak, government legal framework for management of religious affairs is underpinned by Article 21, Section 1, subsection C of the 1992 Constitution. It is in this regard that my ministry has been working with key stakeholders to put together a draft proposed government policy for direction of religion designed to protect the rights and freedom of all of us, regardless of our beliefs or non-beliefs. As interesting as it is, the practice of religions has divided opinions. Such opinions have ranged from weak enforcement and limited adherence to laws ordering the conduct and practice of religion. Again, religious fanaticism. Some religious leaders abuse their followers. Again, noise pollution. In some instances, causing nuisance to some neighbors and damaging the eardrums of infants. Money laundering, which are in almost all the countries in the world become a crime. Exploitation of the vulnerable within the religious landscape. Limited documentation on code of conduct and succession plans that may bring confusion and conflicts in our religious bodies. Whilst my ministry appreciates and commends the wonderful works of some of our religious bodies and leaders, we always also wish to take proactive measures to engineer the necessary reforms needed for addressing the worrying issues that have sprung up.
He indicated that the proposed policy will allow the ministry to mobilize religious leaders and sensitize them while consulting with them for national development.
Now, the Ministry of Education is on a course to train teachers who handle children at the preschool level across the country. The project will provide a holistic and well-rounded education for learners across the country. Deputy Minister of Education, Reverend John Intim-Fojo, says under the package, the classrooms of the kindergarten schools are being resourced while the teachers are being equipped with play-based methods of teaching. He was speaking at the launch of the KG Inset Package implementation at Asen South in the Central Region.
John Intim-Fojo says government holds kindergarten education very dear to its heart, and the launch, which will be followed by the implementation of the policy, is a big testimony to government commitment.
Following the launch of the early childhood policy, we have gone further with the support of Sabre Education, UNICEF and other partners to ensure that we train KG teachers, over 48,000 KG teachers across the country. Today we have come to Asen South to launch the Central Regional implementation of the KG Inset Package. The intent is to ensure that every teacher in kindergarten class gets to be trained in the new play-based pedagogy, in the new learner-centered curriculum that ensures that children are engaged, children enjoy what they are learning, and children are able to communicate whilst they are learning. Children have very short attention span, so it's important you create a learning environment that is beautiful, that has games in, that has activities that will be able to make the learning process exciting for them.
Director for Early Childhood Education at the Ghana Education Service, Vida Barbara Into, underscored the significance of the policy. She says a lot is being done to make the classroom environment lively.
Now today, 25 senior high schools and TVET institutions will battle for intellect and innovation in the STEM Innovation Competition at the University of Ghana's City Auditorium. Already, build-up to the final has started with an exhibition of their creative works. Deputy Education Minister Reverend John Intim-Fojo is among dignitaries who inspected the innovations. Jacqueline Ansomaya-Boa was there for Joy News.
In a groundbreaking shift from traditional educational norms, the STEM Innovation Competition has emerged as a beacon of innovation, captivating the minds of more than 200 senior high schools and technical, vocational and educational training institutions across the country. From the vast pool of participants, the crucible of the competition has distilled excellence, bringing the number down to a formidable 25 schools now vying for the supremacy in the grand finale. Deputy Minister of Education John Intim-Fojo revealed that STEM innovation should be seen as a departure from the conventional theoretical approach and is imperative to integrate hands-on STEM experiences into our curriculum to nurture practical skills vital for the future.
And for us, we are excited to see practical demonstration of innovation in our schools. Gone are the days when people complain about how theoretical the kind of things we teach them, and then the kind of rote memorization, just remembering what teachers have taught them or written for them in their notes to reproduce. Now we are in the 21st century era where we are investing heavily in our education, the education of our second cycle institution, and ensuring that the kind of curriculum we teach them are standard-based, they are learner-centered, they are the ones that imbibe the concept of collaboration, critical thinking, creativity, and communication. This is clearly what we are seeing. So STEM innovation is a clear demonstration and testament to the fact that government is changing the face of education. We are getting into the practicality of what we are teaching them.
He also unveils a significant aspect of STEM innovation, emphasizing industry collaboration.
Beyond that, we'll have a partnership with National Entrepreneurship and Innovation Program, whereby some selected innovations that have made it to this point will be attached to industrial hubs, some innovation hubs across the country, to further be supported and to further upgrade the prototypes and whatever technology or invention they have brought up to a commercial scale and to a point where you can now put in money and get a factory out of it, get some apps that can sell, and get products out of it that will solve various critical problems we have right here.
Learners of Takpo Tuori in the Nadoli Kalio district of the Upper West region are heaving a sigh of relief after the district assembly started renovation works on their school. The school lacks a junior high school block, forcing students to study under a makeshift structure constructed from tree sticks and worn-out plastic materials. Rafik Salam reports.
The people of Takpo Tuori can boast of having a 6-unit primary school block, but that can be said of their junior high school. The learners has been crammed in a makeshift structure perched at the end of the primary school block. It is erected with tree sticks and roofed with wretched and worn-out plastic materials, mostly used to cover or dry farm produce. The plastic material is on the verge of completely torn apart, and as a result, the learners during instructional hours got distracted and their skin bombarded by the powerful sun rays that pierce through the many openings riddled in the jaded plastic material.
We have up to JHS, but the JHS is a self-initiative project. You will see now, even some of them are in the shed. So they actually are relying on the primary school structure to carry on with the junior high school block.
Currently we have KG to JHS 3, but the JHS block is not, the JHS is not having a structure. We are using the primary classroom for the JHS.
Nadolo Kaleo District Assembly, concerned about the plight of the learners, awarded a contract for the construction of a 3-unit classroom block for the community under the Gulf of Guinea Northern Region Social Cohesion Project. The $150 million funded World Bank project is being implemented by the Ministry of Local Government, Decentralization and Rural Development in collaboration with the National Development Planning Commission, NDPC, to improve economic activities in 6 regions of the North that has been hit by food insecurity, climate change, conflict, and violence, particularly in the Sahel region. The project, which was launched in May this year, is expected to serve as a catalyst for addressing some of the key emerging and recurring challenges.
We are going to hit the ground running. This is a specialized project, very interested by the office of the president. So we cannot afford to delay. It's not going to be treated like the usual projects. It's not a common fund project, neither is it even a district development facility project. This is for social cohesion. So the community should be rest assured. In 4 months' time, inshallah, we will come back and commission the project.
And as you yourself can see, we are using tents and other things for some of the classes. And I believe when the structure is completed, it will help us to improve learning, teaching and learning in the school. So it is a pleasure for this wonderful honor given to us.
Another is the construction of a chips compound for Natadwori. According to DC Catherine Lankono, community members have seriously been briefing on a neck over their development challenges.
Water, they needed chips, they needed a cage. So when this Soko project came, I called them. I said, choose one. I wanted you to make the first choice. And they chose the chips compound. And today, we are here to hand over the contractor to them, to support the contractor, so that with the minimum time, I've told the contractors, we don't want you to use the maximum time. Work assiduously so that within the minimum time, we can come back here and hand over the project.
The New Patriotic Party has started vetting parliamentary aspirants who have filed to contest in the party's primaries for orphan constituencies. 19 people have filed to contest in the 8 orphan constituencies in the Upper West region. And on Tuesday, 11 of these aspirants from 4 constituencies were vetted and okayed for the December 2 primaries. Another report by Rafik Salam.
3 descendants of the great Imam Yamoro of the Limairi clan are locked in a political battle for the right to lead the new Patriotic Party MPP to the 2024 polls in the West Central constituency. Former Municipal Chief Executive Isaku Tair Mumin, who was the party's parliamentary candidate in the 2016 general election, it is time for revenge on his cousin Haji Audu, who he said he treated with kid gloves.
Yeah, I'm going to beat her. That shows. On the latter note, you know, women are very fragile. So if we hit her hard, she'll break. So that is why on the first attempt, we gave her the opportunity. And I think that she has tested it. She knows what it looks like. So this time round, we are not going to go with the kids' gloves.
Haji Audu said a much bigger and thicker punch awaits the one mayor who probably will flame out his parliamentary ambition.
Let's wait until 2nd December. We'll see whether it was a kid gloves that he used. This time, I'm also going to put in a very thick one to come and face my big brother.
Businessman Abdul Naya Ishak will be the third Limairu that will be on the ballot paper for the MPP in the West Central Parliamentary Primary.
First of all, the youth in the party, the youth in the constituency, the women in the constituency, the women in the party. Secondly, education and skill training. When you are skillfully trained, you don't come out and wait for jobs. You come out and you start working. And when you start working, you start getting revenue. And our poverty will be reduced.
In neighboring West constituency, District Chief Executive Dr. Owuro Suleimani comes up against former West DCE and immediate past Upper Regional Secretary of the MPP, Isaac Halitu, and the party's 2020 parliamentary candidate, Engineer Salifu Yakubu.
But it's about supporting them. You support them. You look up to. They will look up to you for their aspirations, and then you also know that if you ever get the seat, there are things that you can do to support the communities and the people. So it's not that you are doing so much for them that they should vote for you. What I want is to get a seat, and I'll be able to use my knowledge and power to help my people.
Apart from that, sure. In fact, there's this chronic disease. Azuma Resources used to worry us a lot. But what we did, I told them, I'm able to get these people a mining license with the youth with 25 hectares from the Azuma Resources.
Whether MPP, NDC, they are ready to come along and work with me. The reason I am convinced, I'm begging delegates, the bridge between the MPP and Parliament is the delegates. That is the only bridge. Once the delegates allow us to cross that bridge safely.
In the Jiriba constituency, the municipal chief executive, Loe Nicolas Soyiri, will lock horns with Deputy Chief Executive Officer of the Zongo Development Fund, Aisha Salifu.
We don't speak Dagari in Parliament. As long as I can sit with my traditional rulers at traditional family gatherings, stakeholders meetings in my community, apart from the Ponas, I'm probably the only Impure in my community, so I sit in very vital meetings, and they speak Dagari, and I'm able to contribute. All I need to know is understand the plight of my people. Even if I can't understand what they say, you can see people's pain. Sure. You look around Jirapa and I ask myself, is this what I want for my people?
Santo, in terms of moral life, in terms of academic qualification, in terms of relationship with the grassroots.
Two childhood friends are also locked up in a battle for one to get a right to represent the people of the Laura constituency.
And that's how we wrap up this morning's news. There's more on myjoyonline.com. Up next is a news review on the AM show. Do stay. All right, so welcome back, and it's time for us to go into what the papers are reporting this morning. Now, I still have with me the Daily Guide newspaper. I have the Ghanaian Times. I have the Finder, the Ghanaian Publisher, the Custodian, and the Daily Analyst. These are the papers we have this morning, and we've been joined by political science analyst. He is also the director for the Center for International Studies at the University of Ghana, Legon. Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante. He joins me via Zoom. Doc, good morning, and it's an honor to have you this morning.
Good morning, my brother. How are you? Long time.
Yeah, I'm around, you know. Doc, let's go into the paper. But just before, the finance minister is to present the budget in Parliament today. As a Ghanaian, what are your expectations, or is your expectation?
Yeah, before we do, just a quick correction. You did address me as the head of international relations, also no, Director, Center for European Studies, but this is just an aside.
Oh, okay.
We can move on.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. I expect this budget to be very modest in the sense that taxation, we are burdened over the years with taxation. And we learned under the feet of the vice president, but too much taxation become nuisance, and that he wanted to do away with nuisance taxes. Mm-hmm. Is it the case that we are seeing resurgence of nuisance taxes? I would like my vice president to respond to this and then give us something that will give us hope.
Okay, so that's Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante, the director of the Center for European Studies at the University of Ghana. We'll be touching base with him shortly. But on the front page of the Daily Guide, it says, Nana defends reparation claims. It comes with, okay. And then we have premium consular service opens in Berlin. And you can see that Kwame Prechum Sapon, traditional leaders, Gina Blay, who's the ambassador, and Nidal Kamoni officially opening the premium consular service there. Now, West Blue runs to court over 289 million Ghana cedis arrears. Okay. And digital training for 10,000 people launched. So those are the stories on the front page of the Daily Guide. Let's see what's on the front page of the Ghanaian Times newspaper too. It says, at the Creation Africa Ghana launch, government committed to supporting creative industry to create wealth. And it comes with a photograph of the president, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo there. Also, government secures new funding source for La General Hospital construction. Okay, this would probably come as a good news to the people of La. And that story, details of it can be found on page 12 of the Ghanaian Times newspaper. We'll go deep into that later. Now, so the 2024 budget growth strategy to impact youth. It comes with a picture or a photograph of the finance minister. And West Blue Ghana sues AG, GRA over termination of 289 million cedis contract. We'll get into that. Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante is back on the line. Doc, so you were making a point when the line tripped.
Yes, as I was saying that we want a budget, economic budget, that is modest, to be able to address
Okay, all right then. So the line is being unstable this morning, but we'll try and get it through. Now, the Finder newspaper, reparations demand is for justice, not a plea for arms. That's President Akufo-Addo there. Samira takes inclusion of women in climate fight to Harvard University. It comes with a picture of the second lady, Samira Baumia, speaking at the Harvard Kennedy School there. Now, Giadek and Rockshaw present MRE report to Nana Addo. Now, bauxite deposits increase in Yenahin. from estimated 250 to 375 million metric tons in Block B. Obviously, great news there. But as to how we can utilize it is another discussion we need to have. But yeah, now public sector workers to enjoy up to 25% base pay rise in 2024. Community 5 land acquired in 1984, not earmarked as a football park. That according to TDC. Okay, the Ghanaian publisher, it says it also has reparations for Africa long overdue, according to President Akufo-Addo. NCCE to Ghanaians, vote against any party that spreads religious hatred. Okay, it comes with a picture of the NCCE chairperson Kathleen Adi and Kwadwo Afare. Write to Baumia Mahama, tell us your agenda for growth and prosperity. And government secures 50 million euros fund for La Hospital project, Health Minister. If you go into the Custodian newspaper, it says MPP vets MP aspirants. It comes with a picture of Justin Kodia Frimpong, MPP General Secretary. Call for reparations, not plea for arms. Akufo-Addo there. Then I come here in inverted commas, kills Alan's campaign strategy. Okay, what is that? When you get the paper, you can get the details there. Daily Analyst says, insightful broadcast. NMC gives final warning to Onia TV. Okay, all right. Now, ADB announces 1 million cedis ultimate prize for 2023 National Best Farmer. Alan Meat CSOs, GPH's Esther JB Donko wins African Ports Award. And uncontrolled corruption suffocating Ghana. Catholic Bishops President fires. Oforiatta presents 2024 budget today. Now, so Dr. Asante is back on the line. I pray that this time the network stays.
Yeah, I hope this one it stays. So let me just quickly run through so that we can do serious business. So as I was saying, we needed a budget that will be able to address our problems, at least in a way that will bring smiles on the faces of people, and a budget that will also make bring home all the companies that are on their needs now. A budget that will also take care of the election, the pre-election expenditure. That means that we want to see a lot of cuts on in terms of expenditure on the part of government. We need a whole lot of things to be able to make sure that this budget will stand the test of time. Let us remember that this is the last budget of the president, so we want him to leave something that will remain indelible in our minds in a more positive manner, so as to remember him of what his pattern gives for us as a people in terms of the budget that he bequeathed to us. But could you, I'll crave your indulgence to allow me a little space to talk about something that we do, normally you and I know on this program, where if there is a burning issue, you want to harp on it briefly, then we'll move on.
Sure.
I want to see, so if you permit me, I can go.
Why not? Yes.
Yeah. If you look at, want to look at Kennedy Japan and his role in the forthcoming campaign of Dr. Baumia, you and I are alive to the fact that Kennedy put up splendid performance, great performance, and I admire him. I admire him in the sense that he was fighting like a tiger. You know, when you look at the jungle, you realize that tigers fight individually. They don't fight in a group like lions where the pride will hunt. Tigers hunt individually, unlike lions, which will always make sure that they go with the pride to hunt for prey and the rest of them. Kennedy was a lone ranger. He fought. He came out with fantastic ideas, fantastic strategies, and then exposed the weaknesses within the MPP. And for me, he made my day with all that. And above all, his performance at the election was great. But when we're talking about the campaign for 2024, I'm afraid he cannot do much. He is going to suffer a lot of limitations. And these are the things I want to touch on. People have put their hopes in him and that Kennedy will come and change the face of the campaign. Yes, there's nothing wrong nursing that hope. But his spokesman has indicated that not all the things that roles that will be assigned to him that he will play. If you assign a certain role and it's not comfortable, he would tell you that I will not be able to do that. People have taken him on. But I think that there is a more reason why he says that. And I support him in that call. Because let's look at it. He said some of the things that he said are going to militate against his campaign, unless, of course, he wants to whitewash them. And that one will affect his image and his stand within the NPP. All right. Let's look at the fact that one of the statements he said that NPP lost the election in 2022 when the economy deteriorated, when inflation went high, when all the indicators, we got them wrong, when business community suffered a lot of cuts within their income bracket, when a lot of things really affected the economy, and then people like the middle class and all that. Having said this, what else are you going to say to change this narrative? I'm afraid it's going to be difficult. Are you going to see that now the NPP is going to win the election? They say they've lost because of a haircut and the rest of them, because of the fall in value of money for businesses and the rest of them. So it's going to be difficult. The second thing you talk about, that Bawumia will not win the election. He will win. If he will not win the election and he's at 1 now, what are you going to do?
Well, but those are political talks. I'm sure with the politicians know what they were doing. So if it comes critical, I mean, he said A, but he can still say B and defend it and justify it. So as for that, yeah, you are a political scientist, so probably you could better understand them. But
please, let us not shove it under the carpet. Otherwise, we are saying that the voters are not discerning.
Okay.
They listen to these things and then make comparisons. Okay. And then interrogate the issue and come out with their verdict. Their verdict, they don't announce. They only announce it
on the election day. Anyway.
Yes.
2024 will be interesting.
They call themselves strategies. And if you are strategists, you don't go to IMF for bailout and all that. What can change with regard to this? Can he come out to say something different that will suit, assuage the pain of Ghanaian?
Okay.
He talked about the MPP is looting the state as if there is no tomorrow. This is a big statement that cannot be shoved under the carpet.
Okay.
What can he do to justify this? He talked about the fact that he has gone round the 275 constituencies. The government flagship program of 1D, 1F. He cannot see much.
Okay.
What else can he say? Well, this is a government major flagship program, and that they are going to trumpet, they are going to showcase during the campaign. And this is his verdict on it. What can be changed about this? He talked about the fact that if you want to be poor, then you go into farming. He said that. And your team went there to interview, and that was the statement. This country's mainstay is on agriculture. So if you make this indictment on agriculture, how are you going to convince the electorates, officials, electorates, who a number of them are, farmers and the rest of them? It's going to be difficult.
All right.
The issue of ethnicity, that card that unfortunately he touched on. Now look at NDC, they've elected Enodna. Look at Dr. Ayariga Enodna. It will be unfair for MPP to have Enodna to lead the party. The ethnic card was unfortunately played. And I tell you, that is something that has hit the raw nerve of the ordinary man in the streets.
Okay.
Ethnicity is not a good thing to play in politics. The Bawumia team also came out with the 10 cents of Kennedy Japan. How are they also going to write these things and make him to turn a new leaf to support the campaign? It's going to be difficult. The MPP people said that he has overrated himself, Kennedy. They believe that all that he talks about, he doesn't worth that salt, and then he has just overrated himself. Can he now support the campaign effectively when he knows that he has not done so? Then the last one, he talks about the fact that Bawumia at a point in time was doing well, and then you could not blame him for the economic mishap due to Russia-Ukraine crisis, saying that all countries are on their knees. Why would Ghana be an exception? And at a point in time, taking the government on with the economic decadence that we are experiencing. That contradictory statement is always fresh in our mind, and to remind us during the election. So these are my few thoughts, and I believe that is why in the campaign I caution the MPP that, look, yes, this is intra-party campaign election.
All right, so Dr. Santi's line has jumped again. Now, if you go into the Daily Guide newspaper, page 3, the West Blue runs to court over 289 million cities arrears is detailed there. Now, the story is written by Vincent Kubi. It says, Ghanaian-owned ICT consultancy West Blue Ghana yesterday filed a suit against the Attorney General and the Ghana Revenue Authority demanding to be paid an amount of 289 million cedis, which the plaintiff described as overdue arrears from contractual work it did under the National Single Window and Integrated Risk Management System. According to West Blue, though the NSW contract is signed with the government of Ghana, categorically stated that the company would be paid free equal to 0.35% of the final invoice, CIF, cost, insurance and freight, value of import consignment entering into Ghana through the seaport, airport and land borders. It ended up being paid a fee equivalent to only 0.28% instead of the agreed percentage. The writ explained that in a series of letters dated January 25, 2018, February 4th, 2019, and March 14, 2019, respectively, the then Deputy Finance Minister, Kweku Kwating, alluded to West Blue's contract price of 0.35% and subsequently reduced the fee to 0.28% of the final invoice CIF value of all imports. West Blue explained that though the payment terms as agreed in the contract was a fixed percentage of the final invoice CIF of all imports, government since 2015 till the contract was ended in 2020 has failed to pay the full amount of the fixed percentage of the final invoice CIF value of import consignment entering Ghana through seaports, airport and land borders. The company said it is compelled to go to court as a last resort because all attempts to get the matter amicably resolved failed. It said several correspondents through 8 lawyers, Benti Enchil, Lecha and Ankuma, an African legal associate to the Minister of Finance and the second defendant, GRA, have been unsuccessful as the defendant, without any lawful basis, have remained adamant on their position that all payment obligations owed the plaintiff, that West Blue, have been discharged. So we'll see how the case plays out in court, and it will be an interesting issue there. Now let's see. Now Nana also defends reparation claims. The story is by Charles Techibwedu. Now it says President Akufo-Addo has justified his campaign for compensation for countries affected by the effect of transatlantic slave trade, especially Africans. For him, the call by Africans and Africans in the diaspora for the payment of reparations by European nations who carried out those acts some 400 years ago is not a plea for arms, but a demand for justice. This was when he addressed the maiden edition of the Accra Reparations Conference held in the capital city. He was of the belief that the reparations for Africa and Africans are long overdue, noting that victims of other injustices in human history have rightly received reparations and that Africans deserve the same for the damage caused by the transatlantic slave trade. Dr. Asante is back. Doc, so let's look at the West Blue, which has run to court over some 289 million arrears. Now, according to the details, they agreed a 0.35% of final invoice, CIF, that's cost, insurance and freight value of import consignment, entering into Ghana through all the avenues, seaport, airport and land borders. But the government ended up paying 0.28% instead of the agreed percentage. And that's why they've run to court to demand the payment of the remainder of the agreed 0.35%. What do you make of it? Hello, Doc. Okay, we're having challenges with Doc's line. So those are the details there in the Daily Guide newspaper. Let's look at the Ghanaian Times newspaper now. And I'm sure most of you will be interested in the budget issue. The West Blue Ghana issue is also in the Ghanaian Times newspaper. But let me take you to the budget story. Now, it says the Minister of Finance, Ken Ofori-Atta, will today present to Parliament the 2024 budget statement and economic policy of the government. It will be the penultimate budget of the Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo-led government, and first since Ghana reached an agreement with the International Monetary Fund for a $3 billion credit facility. So all of those things will play out. Now, the presentation is in pursuance of, it quotes the article that backs it. Coming in an election year, the budget would be expected to focus on ensuring fiscal discipline, especially as Ghana goes to the polls, and on areas of the economy that would drive growth and demonstrate government's commitment to the IMF program. Dr. Asante is joining me now on phone. Doc, welcome back. I was asking about your thought on this West Blue, which has sued the AG and the GRA for the payment of some 289 million Ghana cedis arrears as part of an agreed contract with government, that government would pay 0.35% of the final invoice, CIF, of all import consignment entering Ghana, but government ended up paying 0.28%. That's why it's demanding the payment of the arrears. Your thought on that story? Hello, Doc. Okay, so let's continue with the stories in the Ghanaian Times newspaper. So it is expected that the budget today. Dr. Asante, can you hear me, sir?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so I was asking for your thoughts on this West Blue saga with government. That government owes some 289 million citizens, so they've sued the AG and the GRA for that money.
Yeah, I believe that what needs to be done, the AG as government legal advisor will be able to take into consideration all the things that they need to do to be able to address this problem once and for all. Okay. So I think once the issue is in the bosom of the legal system, the AG will be able to do a good job. Okay. And so that these things can be addressed once and for all.
I'm sure this one would be of interest to you. On the final newspaper page 4, it says public sector workers to enjoy up to 25% base pay rise in 2024. The base pay on the single spine salary structure is set to increase by 23% starting January 2024, following the conclusion of 2 days of negotiations between the government and organized labor. The agreement stipulates that the 23% increment will be applicable across the board from January to June 2024, and after which it will further rise to 25% from July to December 2024. Your thought on this?
Yeah, pay rise is a welcoming news for every worker, particularly so when we're talking about government workers. That's fine. But also there is a corresponding duty on our part to ensure productivity and make sure that there's value for money. But that aside, we don't want to see pay rise where inflation and other economic variables will come and take what has been given to us as what increment. Then it renders the whole exercise useless. So my always advice is that government, whilst looking at pay rise and the rest of them, you also want to look at how you make sure that the economy is healthy, so that whatever you give to workers as part of the remuneration for the work that they've done, they will be able to use it effectively to develop themselves. That is the logic behind pay rise and productivity, and then healthy economy. If we are not able to strike that fine balance along these lines, I'm afraid the whole pay rise becomes useless.
Okay. Okay. All right, so that's it. Now, let's look at this story also written by Elvis Darko. It says the Ghana Integrated Aluminium Development Company, GIADEC, and Rockshore International have jointly conducted a mineral resource estimate, MRE, revealing that bauxite deposit in Yinahin Block B's 3 hills are estimated to be a minimum of 375 million metric tons. This represents almost appreciable 50% increase from historically estimated figures of around 215 million metric tons in hills 4, 5, and 6. The MRE results indicate a substantial increase in bauxite resources in the Yinahin area, validating both quantity and quality. This is good news. But what must we do to ensure that we are deriving the required benefit from this natural resource?
Yes. The famous Ali Mazrui said that Africa is the richest, yet the poorest. If you bring it down to Ghana, you realize that we are rich in natural resources. There's no doubt about that. But how effective have we made use of the resources is a problem that you and I are trying to deal with. The best way out is to ensure that the contract that we sign governing some of these things, the state benefits immensely from it. More often than not, you will see a contract written and the state gets pittance for there's so much that the state gives out. That should be looked at. Another thing is the issue of mining. We should get to a certain level where we ourselves should be able to mine and add value here. Even there is a foreigner who is going to mine, we should encourage the activity to the extent that we are able to add value, and then you don't sell the raw minerals that you take. That doesn't yield any dividend at all. And of course, we should also be looking at the intangibles that are associated with materials like this. You're selling the raw goods. People are using them to develop other things for humanity, and then they advertise your name on it that this gold is coming from country A, B, and these are the intangibles. How has the country been able to place itself in a position that we take advantage of the intangibles as something that is due us? We have for a very long time. If you look at chocolate, we've been selling cocoa. People are using it for chocolate, and they advertise, the Ghana premium cocoa. That advert alone, how much do we benefit from it? These are intangibles that can rake in a lot of resources for us. So I believe that they know more than I do. When they tie all this knot together, we should be able to get something meaningful for the state.
In the value addition process, the president tasked GIADEC to ensure that the value addition processes, including refining raw bauxite into alumina, smelting alumina into aluminium, and developing the downstream industry, are conducted in Ghana with active participation from Ghanaian companies, which the Deputy Minister, George Mrekuduka, assured continuous support from the ministry towards the development of the integrated aluminium industry. So maybe we'll be seeing that the value addition will be happening in Ghana, but I'm sure that's also another discussion for another day.
I also hope and pray that the government will walk the talk. More often than not, it has been a talk show. We want to have a real practice on the ground, so as to derive the maximum benefit.
Okay. Doc, I'm grateful to you for joining us here on Issue You.
Always a pleasure having worked for Joy FM and making sure that we contribute our quota for the development of Ghana. I am always ready to support my country.
Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante is the director of the Center for European Studies at the University of Ghana, Legon. This is to the AM show. Up next is a sports segment, and Muftar Nabila will be bringing you details from the world of sports, because there's something on Ampem Dakwa ladies. What is it? Stay on and hear that. Stay on. All right, so welcome back to the AM show here on the Joy News channel, wherever you are. Thank you for making us part of your morning. Now, let's go into the big story for today. The Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, will later today present the 2024 budget statement and economic policy of the government in Parliament. Now, this is the last of the Akufo-Addo government. And again, the first after we entered into that agreement with the IMF for $3 billion credit facility. Now, this presentation will outline government strategies for revenue generation policies to alleviate the current economic challenges faced by Ghanaians. And we have, a vast array of people to help us understand what the real issues are. Dr. Michael Ayamga is development economist and senior lecturer, University of Development Studies. He will be joining us via Zoom. Dr. Eric Boachi-Yadom, a senior lecturer, Banking and Finance Department of the University for Professional Studies, UPSA. Dr. Patrick Esuming is an economist with the University of Ghana Business School. Eric Amponsa-Boateng is a tax consultant. Dr. Peter Ante is Executive Director, Institute for Education Studies. Gentlemen, good morning and thanks for joining us.
Yeah, good morning and thank you for having me.
Great.
Good morning and thank you for having me too.
Great. Let me start with you, Dr. Ayamga, on this. What is your review of the performance of this government in relation to the budget it presented for 2023?
Yeah, I would say it is rather not too disappointing, but underwhelming.
Okay.
Given that the projections we made and where we ought to be in order to return to a path of growth has largely been missed. So we revised growth levels to about 1.7%, when we should be doing close to 3%. And if you take into consideration the fact that all the numbers and the projections we are making are below the levels that this government inherited, that is way below the 2016 levels. And 2016, which was a very bad year by the standards of some Ghanaians, and that's why we had electoral change, has become the benchmark for assessing this government. Then it tells us how terrible and how far we have fallen. But if you look at all the indicators, we are not where we are supposed to be. As I already indicated, for growth, we are doing around 1.7%, which is underwhelming. For inflation, we expected it to be around 18.1%. In order for us to have a chance of coming back, as we speak, it's about 38.1%. We missed our fiscal deficit targets, and we are hovering around 8-9% deficits. Our current account balance is also disappointing. So if you look at all those parameters, we are not even meeting the minimum expectation to have a chance. Others have even said that the targets we have put in place are overly optimistic, and some are putting our growth in below 1.7%, and our headline inflation to end the year at about 44.1%. So you look at everything and you realize that, okay, we have a serious problem. And to buttress that, the fact that we have missed the November 1st deadline for the second tranche of the IMF bailout, perhaps it underscores the difficulties we are facing as a nation. And if you also look at what the minister said he was going to do, that is to support local industries, that is the vulnerable industries and struggling startups to become competitive. And he has gone to do exactly the opposite by increasing taxes, by increasing income taxes that have dampened demand, and by increasing also the cost of borrowing. That has meant that domestic investment is reducing. And then you also realize that we have not become as attractive as we are, and companies are winding up, folding up, and relocating. So everything that ought to be going right for us to say we are back on the path of growth is not. Apart from the fact that we have received receipts from the IMF, we are able to infuse this into the forex markets, and we get infinitesimal changes in the exchange rate. As we still talk, we are dealing between 11 and 13%, depending on who you ask in terms of the CD to dollar. And that is way above what we inherited in 2016. So I'm saying that Ghanaians voted the President John Mahama out in 2016 because they thought those numbers were underwhelming and uninspiring. If we now struggle to meet them, and I can tell you for 2020, 2021, 2022, all the growth targets have been below the 3.7 growth rate that we got in 2016. I can assure you that Ghana is not making progress, and apart from the phase the minister is putting up and trying to quote the scriptures, just knowing very well that we are a very religious and conservative society and want to have a positive outlook. Beyond that, all is not going well in the economy, and the minister going for it has work cut out for him.
So what could be the major challenge why we are not able to achieve the things we set out to achieve? For example, our primary balance as a percentage of GDP in the revised target for the media budget was 1.2%. Import cover was 0.8%, but you are saying that we're not really achieving these. So what is our major challenge?
Just take the import cover you mentioned, for example, and as many of us have indicated, the minister speaks like a charismatic preacher and behaves like a fetish priest in some bush. He talks about Ghana will come out, but when he wants to make a projection for import cover, he goes for 0.8%, 0.8 months. That is below 1 month of import cover. What kind of pessimism is that? You inherited something in the range of 3 months, and when you want to make a target, you go for 0.8 months because it is easy to meet.
But that is after, you know, the COVID era. Yes, before the COVID era, they were doing more than that, isn't it?
Everybody. It likes to play with everybody because it thinks we don't interrogate the numbers very well, but that is the case. You look at our deficits. Our deficits. We go in for a very low deficit, targets that we can easily meet. Look at our expenditure. You realize that he makes a projection, or our revenue, you make a projection of, let's say, 5.9%, and you get 5.8 or 7% because you are not optimistic enough. Your rhetoric does not match your actions. And as I said, the primary balance is extremely important here. That the government has over the years, since it took over power, done the opposite in terms of creating a conducive environment for business to operate. So we have some serious challenges in the private sector because of the taxes. One would have expected that this will bring about some reduction in our deficits. But you don't understand the economy here. The taxes are increasing, the deficits are not reducing. And then you ask yourself, what kind of economics is taking place here? You understand that the appetite for government to discipline itself and cut down its expenditure is not matched by its desire to increase taxes. So you want to ask yourself, where does all these taxes go? And why are we not able to see any reasonable movement in our deficits? Given that we are virtually destroying the private sector, we are curtailing growth, reducing employment and other things to raise revenue. And yet we don't see where the revenue goes because it's not reflecting in our deficit. We are still way below where we ought to be. And I think that is a problem going forward.
Okay, let me bring you Dr. Boakye Yadom. Doc, so yesterday the Ghana Statistical Service announced that the inflation rate has slowed again to 35.2 year-on-year in October from 38.1% in September. But people say we are not seeing this reflect in our livelihoods. So what is the challenge? How long must it take for us to see this reflect in our lives? And again, what really, is making it difficult for this figure, because at least it's been coming down for some time, to reflect in the lives of the ordinary Ghanaian?
Thank you. If we look at the inflation figures, we are looking at the fact that prices are increasing, but the rate at which they are increasing is now a bit downwards. It doesn't mean that prices are going to reduce.
Okay.
So the transmission mechanism will be a little bit slow. And looking at the trend of the inflation, reducing from about 38 to 35.2 means that you have about 3% reduction, and 3%, will not cause much change in the life of the average Ghanaian. So although the government is making attempts, if we look at how we started the second quarter with around 40, and we are now around 35, if December inflation is able to come down, November to December is able to stabilize, we are expecting prices to be stable going into 2024. So we shouldn't expect an immediate impact. But I should mention that in assessment of 2023 of the government activities and performance, we have to look at it from different perspectives.
Okay.
Number one, we can look at it in terms of GDP. We can look at it in terms of, number two, sectorial performance. We can also look at the macroeconomic indicators. We can look at revenue mobilization and expenditure. So when we put all together, it almost appears the government is not doing much. But when you go into details, there are small growth, or there are some effort that the government is making. For example, you look at the exchange rate. If we check Bloomberg reports, the first quarter of the year, Ghana cedi was adjudged as one of the best performing currencies across the globe, among 150 currencies, by gaining about 33%. If we began the year 2023 with cedi to dollar around 10, and we are currently doing, you look at the interbank exchange rate, we are doing around 11.49. What it means is that the overall depreciation from the start of the year to now is about 6%, which means that government has a little bit been disciplined and in terms of management of the exchange rate. Of course, we can attribute it to the IMF program and the trenches of the 3 billion that is coming in. But it also means that the discipline we are expecting IMF to bring into the economy, in a way, is beginning to show. Now, we can also look at the sectorial performance. If we look at the Ghana Statistical Service release report on various sectors of the economy, and you will see that we are in the first quarter, the service sector grew by about 10.1. The second quarter is about 6. Then the agriculture sector is about 4.8, and in the first quarter, and it's about 6.3. What we see dwindling is industry, which reduced by 3.1 in the first quarter and about 1.9 in the second quarter. So overall, what government is not doing well is be able to support industry, because industry over the period, I'm talking about data relating to this period, has been reducing, has been going in negative. It means that the taxes are having effect. And it also means that government promises of investing or supporting the industry is not really working.
Okay.
And also, we are expecting that the agriculture sector should feed into the industry sector, but that is not the case. It is rather the service sector that is driving the economy. Then you may want to look at the component of the service sector. You see, in the first sector, the 10.1% growth in the service sector was hugely contributed by public administration, which grew about 37.6%. So you go into the public sector and you will see that it is largely because of the size of the government, And I think this problem was created in 2017 when government decided to increased the number of regions, and for that matter, added about 45 new districts. And on the average, it takes about 10 million Ghana cedis to run a district assembly. So if we have 45 new districts that have been added, every year you can multiply 10 million by 45. That is a lot of money that government needs to support the district assemblies. We should not always look at development in terms of duplicating government activities that could have been done elsewhere. So creating more districts will have a toll on the public budget, and governments have already made that mistake. Now, when you come to the second quarter, the public administration grew by only 6%. What it means is that in a way, the public outcry for the government to reduce its size, in terms of ministries and all that, is beginning to yield effort in terms of reduction in public expenditure on these government machineries. So the government has made marginal effort. However, we are expecting more, that government should be able to make sure that those promises reflect in the life of the ordinary Ghanaian. Now, if we look at also the Ghana reference rate, which proxies the interest rate dynamics, it has been going upwards, especially from the year, because government has marginally increased their monetary policies. For example, if we look at the interest rate, the Ghana reference rate, in the half year to July, it was around 27, it went to 29, currently it's around 32. What it means is that government is trying a way to be able to control spending. Controlling spending means that industry or businessmen cannot easily borrow. If you pick the thing from 27 in July and it's currently at 32, it means that the cost of borrowing is almost has gone up within the second half of the year, about 5%. It will be expensive for businesses to borrow. And it is the more reason, if spending is being curtailed, we are expecting inflation, which you could see that inflation is gradually coming down because we are tightening borrowing rate through the monetary policy and other factors. And it's also reducing demand for the foreign exchange because businesses who could have borrowed and buy raw materials or whatever from foreign countries using the dollar are unable to do. That is why we are also seeing the stability. So if we are...
Doc, I don't cut you in here, but what good does that do? You want the, industry to grow, and industry is run by the private people, but you're also regulating the ability to borrow, just so you can check inflation. What good does that do, really?
Okay, so what government is doing, you have a complex of macroeconomic problems you have created, so you need to find a way to deal with it. Now, by creating this problem, if you want to tighten borrowing, then what it means is that you should cut taxes. You see, government should have cut down some taxes to be able to reserve some funding for industry. But government is also not cutting down taxes. That is why we see the negative growth rate in industry. So the rippling effect of tightening the borrowing rate or the policy rate is what we see in the negative growth in the industry. So the macroeconomic indicators are such that, like in their own words, they will eventually expose you, whatever you tend to do. So it doesn't help all of us. If we tighten one angle, it's like two ends of a knot. If we tighten one angle, you should be able to open the other part.
Okay.
And the other part could be through the fiscal policies or through taxation. And they are not doing so well with their tax policies as well. So the negative growth we are experiencing in the industry is because industry has been airtight and they cannot go through borrowing, they cannot go out through taxes. And that is why we are experiencing the negative growth in industry. So we are expecting government to do more. Probably in my subsequent submission, I'll be telling about my expectation for government, especially if we want the industry to grow.
Okay, all right. So you've set the basis right for this. I'm grateful to you. Let me bring in the other guests we have on this particular discussion. So if you look at the mid-year budget review, there were a lot of some of the targets that were reduced. For example, inflation was reduced to 31.3%. End of June, over 10, it was 42.5. Now, if you look at fiscal deficit, it was 6.4 in the mid-year. Overall GDP growth rate, 1.5%. So if you look at all of this, and you look at how the statistics are now, the two guys have explained that whether we are doing, I mean, Dr. Ayamga says that it's uninspiring, but it's not too bleak as well. So really, what do we see playing out here? Dr. Eric Aponsabuate, let me come to you. If you look at the target from when we started in 2022 for 2023 in the budget, they were reviewed for the mid-year. But if you look at the statistics, the figures for this time around too, there seem to be some sort of where we're doing well in some bits, we're not doing well in some bits. So how would you diagnose the problems confronting the Ghanaian economy now?
Good morning to your viewers and listeners. I think that if you look at 2023, we set some targets, and we looked at the real GDP growth rate of 2.8%. We were looking at end of year inflation, that is December, to be 18.9%.
Yeah.
We have not been able to achieve these targets. Basically, because one, we have not been able to manage our expenditure. And you also find that productivity is on the low side. And it's on the low side because of the taxes that have been introduced. Okay, so what happens is that when you introduce new taxes at a period or at a time when businesses already have challenges, what happens is that the introduction of these new taxes will rather lead to a collapse of these businesses. And that is what is happening. Because from where I sit, I observe that most of my clients have asked me to revise their self-assessment for 2023 to virtually a nil tax. We also have observed that government was trying to check inflation. Okay, but if you want to check inflation, you have to use both monetary policies and then fiscal policies. But if you try to use one of them, you are going to fail. So I will say that the introduction of the new taxes this year has really brought hardship to businesses. And so even with the GRE, they were able to exceed their target for the first quarter. But as we speak, they're having challenges. And they're having challenges because the expected revenue is not coming in. So if you ask me, the reason why we are where we are, it is because government is still behaving as if everything is normal. But we must admit that we have a crisis. If you even look at the debt exchange program and its effect on the banking sector, insurance, you will agree with me that all of them are making huge losses. And so I think that going into 2024, I would not expect government to actually introduce any new tax.
But you said that your client have asked you to revise their growth to a nil tax. Is that what you said?
I mean, for example, at the beginning of the year.
No. I want to understand something. But that's what you said, right? Yeah. I wanted to understand what that means. What does that really mean? If you ask you to revise it to a nil tax.
Very good. So normally, by the end of March every year, you're supposed to file your assessment with the GRE. And so, for example, if you say that, okay, you anticipate to earn a certain level of income, I look at your expenditure and I do the computations. It will tell you that, okay, for 2023, the tax to be paid is, let's say, 400,000 Ghana cedis. But even before we got to June, which is the mid-year, almost all of them asked me to revise them, let's say, so in this case, from the 400,000 cedis to zero or to a nil tax. And it is because they set those targets for themselves, having in mind the fact that things were going to go in a certain direction. But when they realized that, no, things are not going on the way that they expect. For example, most of them found out that their expenses were going high and high and high. Meanwhile, the income that they expect was also going down. And so if you match the two, then you realize that it will not be prudent for you to still maintain, in this case, the 400,000 that you said you're going to pay to the GRE. And so rather, you would revise it to a nil tax. And between now and the end of the year, I do not think that something significant is going to happen. If we do not get the second tranche of the IMF loan, okay, what is going to happen is that inflation is going to increase because people are requesting for foreign currencies now to be able to import and then sell during the Christmas period. So what is happening is the fact that businesses are actually going through a lot. And therefore, if you introduce any new tax in 2024, most of them, I believe, will not be able to operate. And if it happens, then they may have to shut down.
Let me bring in Dr. Eric Boakye-Yiadom again here. Doc, so you heard Mr. Bonsa Boateng there saying that businesses are going through a tough time now. Some of them are revising their growth. I mean, from the way I understand it, it means that they are saying there was no growth at all because they want him to revise to zero. Is it now time for us to look at how we can build local industries? Because again, people are looking for foreign exchange, like Mr. Bonsa said, to go and import things to sell. Do we now have to look at how to build local businesses to produce items that we would need instead of always relying on, importations? We tried it with 1D1F, but we haven't achieved that much success.
Thank you. Yeah, I totally agree with Mr. Eric Bonsa, and that it's long overdue. And this conversation, we've had it several years, and it's almost like a political talk. We are going to support local industries and all that. However, government don't seem to be committed. What we need is to move beyond just the talk party and go into action to be able to implement the very things that we know. But you see, the difficult thing about governance is the fact that they know what will work, but they lack the commitment to implement it. Because look at most of our leaders, they're schooled outside. Most of them, some of the presidents in some of the leading countries where they are mates in school. So they know what to do, but the political will and the commitment to be able to invest or do what is right, it's almost like there's a gap between what our leaders know and what they do. Knowing is one thing and doing is another thing. So we are expecting that if we believe what we say, then government should make commitment. For example, government has made promises about youth start and some special initiative and intervention, but government have not committed the necessary funding, to be able to make sure these industries or these local businesses are supported. And in any case, like Mr. Bonsa mentioned, if you want to support local industries, then we are expecting that there should be some concessions in terms of taxes, in local industries. Every now and then, Guta is going on demonstration and taking the locking foreign shops. Why do we allow the foreigners to continue to operate in the retail businesses? I mean, if we want to the indigenous or the local businesses to be able to have a certain amount of capital, to be able to expand in a way to be able to even grow from micro to medium and probably a large enterprises, then government must walk the talk. I mean, to commit substantial investment to be able to create the good environment for businesses to thrive. If a business go for loan and the business is paying less about 35% interest, elsewhere people are paying about 5%. Yeah. I mean, if you are charging me 35%, what it means is that I don't have even the luxury of time to work with the money. So what is government doing about creating those environments for businesses to thrive, especially in terms of lending rates and all that? And we should also be mindful that the mess we see should not be pushed to externalities as in Ukraine war, COVID-19. Government has a role to play. You know, we have created all these challenges and we cannot be affected more than those at the war front. Now we have Israel and Gaza war happening. And are we also going to attribute what is happening to Ghana to that particular war and be able to buy the time that understand that the whole world is going through a challenge and all that? The world is going through a challenge, but some countries are making strides. Some countries are doing well. So government should take the responsibility and walk the talk.
All right. Let me bring in Dr. Ayamga here. Doc, so, I mean, your focus is on how, you know, we can help develop the country using the economic principles that we do have. If you look closely at this 1D, 1F, what must change about it to really achieve the purpose for which it was brought?
Yes, thank you. I just want to probably take a couple of minutes and address maybe some of the things that Dr. Yedom said, which I think is trying to present the real facts. I'm particularly not impressed that we are trying to blame district assemblies for the current predicament that we have. The creation of district assemblies, yes, costs for 450 million Ghana cedis. But hey, we are talking of a government that has been borrowing an average of $7 billion a year. I dare not convert that into millions of Ghana cedis because my calculator is going to crash. So we cannot just think that we are where we are because we have created more districts. That is not the source of our expenditure. I think that, as I said, we face very serious structural issues in our economy. He did mention the issue of investment. And I always like to look at our current account deficit from the perspective of savings and investment rather than just import and export. It's a very important measure of investment versus national savings. So maybe when you are experiencing this current account deficit, it means you are investing more than you are saving. We are looking at around 3 or so percent. And yes, it's pointing in the right direction. The deficit is okay. It means you are financing your investments deficit to a large degree. But if you take the fact that we have borrowed a colossal $40 billion in the last 6 years or so, our deficit, if we were investing these resources, should be higher. We cannot borrow this amount of money. It's not reflecting in investment and it's not reflecting in savings. Something is definitely wrong with our economy. I also...
But clarify this for me. Are you saying that because we borrowed this, our deficit should rather be higher or should be lower?
Yes, it should. Because if we're investing, because they always present the analogy as if it's just our imports versus our exports. But it's also a very good indicator of savings versus investments. And that is why it is not necessarily a bad thing that if you can finance, let's say, your investments with loans or maybe very good concessionary loans. But the fact that we are having very high levels of debt and it's not reflecting even in the deficit, it's a challenge. Yes, it's an issue here. So you're asking ourselves, how much are we investing against what we are actually borrowing? You have nothing to show for it, and that is the key challenge. So looking at the current account deficit, yes, it may be a deficit, but it should have actually been higher if we were investing.
Okay.
Or if we were, then our reserves should have also been higher. To look at an import cover of 0.8 months and then a deficit of 3, you have to ask yourself, where did all that money go? So that is one area that I want us to look at. I also don't think that using the cost of borrowing to control inflation is the right approach if the government's objective was to revive the private sector. As we are speaking now, our inflation, our unemployment is around 13.3%. About 1.7 million Ghanaians are out of job. So you want to ask yourself, if you are crippling the private sector, they are not growing, and you have gone in for an IMF program that says that at no point in time should government employ more than 0.5% of the workforce. You have to ask yourself, have you neglected those people working on the streets who cannot get a job? And that answer is yes. So when we are looking at the seemingly infinitesimal changes that we are observing in inflation and a cost of borrowing, thinking that our economy is pointing in the right direction, I want us to look at the other side, the bread and butter issues, the people that cannot get the jobs because the cost of borrowing is high and businesses are folding up. I'm also surprised that they think that this measure is going to reduce demand for foreign exchange. When the cost of business increases in any business environment, companies fold up and they become important entities. So that is why we are increasingly becoming a commerce nation. People are important. So I do not see these efforts as leading to a reduction in foreign currency because we are not going to have companies staying here and producing. They would rather want to import cheap finished products elsewhere. So again, that figure is just a small flash in the pan because we have injected in some foreign liquidity. It is not going to last. I want to address your substantive issue now of the 1G, 1F. And
exactly, because it ties into your last point about that businesses would want to borrow cheap, would want to import at cheaper rates and sell than producing in Ghana.
Yes, the issue is the policy was not properly unpacked from the campaign platform into a policy. So it was knee-jerk reactions, and you had party people flooding the secretariat, everyone with a proposal to do something, and somebody was sitting down there, sorting them and funding them based on how deep blue your shirt is. And that is where we are now. The districts, the factories first were not properly outlined to industry, local industry, and to our daily activities. Secondly, many of them did not have the forward and backward linkages to actually produce and then link them to markets. And we ought to say that if you want to get the economy right, you ought to get markets right. If you want to get agriculture right, you ought to get the markets right. And I've always been using this as an example, that you don't see anybody on the roadside selling cocoa. And you don't tell anybody to go and invest in cocoa because we tend to what? Fix the marketing. We have the syndicated loans that guarantee markets. So anybody going into cocoa knows that marketing is not going to be a problem. So first of all, I would have wished that government started this 1G, 1F from a market perspective. Where are we going to sell what we are going to produce? Who is going to buy it? And then we started the linkages. But as we stand now, there were factories that were painted for the president to commission and for monies to be spent in order to reward party structures. And I'm not going to mince words on that. They are white elephants sitting in a dry forest.
But I know some of them who tell me that, well, we were not given a dime by the government itself. Government only acted as a bridge between us and the financial institutions, and the financial institutions were giving at a certain rate. And I wanted to find out, is that approach the best? Because if government says, I want to help people to set up 1D, 1F, is it not for government to get some funding to make those funding available to entrepreneurs to set up industries to rather be more beneficial to the economy than to say, let's leave it to the banks to do it.
Yeah, exactly. That is why we are here today. You know, if you look at our current economic crisis, they are underpinned by two things: the energy sector debt, and then also the banking sector cleanup exercises that led us to borrow huge billions from markets to finance them. And the banking sector, financial sector crisis, are as a result of some of these things. One, government's failure to honor its obligations to contractors, and then also securing these loans or guaranteeing these loans, more or less exposing the financial institutions to bad debt. So you have people going to borrow to build factories that are producing nothing. That underscores the challenges. So if you look at the one of the reasons why we have a very precarious debt problem, it is because we expose the financial sector to unsustainable debt and to bad debt, some of which are these factories and projects that we launched and encourage the financial sector to borrow to people. Sometimes it made the financial institutions not do due diligence because they felt that the muscle of government behind some of these initiatives, and they more or less didn't do what they ought to do, and that exposed them. That led us to do the banking sector cleanup, and it's one of our biggest problems. So yes, it didn't directly put in there, but it created a bigger problem by allowing the financial institutions to get enveloped and entangled in the mess of debts because the factors are not producing and the people cannot pay back. That is one of the key reasons why we are where we are today.
Okay, let me bring in an educationist and look at the expenditure on education and the sort of benefit we can derive. Dr. Peter Ante is the Executive Director for the Institute for Education Studies. Doc, good morning. Thanks for joining us. Now,
good morning. Good morning.
If we go back, we take a retrospective analysis of expenditure on education, what would you say 2023 has been like for education?
All right. So because this is the last budget for this particular government, I would want us to go a little back into 2017 and see that in 2017, the government committed 17.56% of its total budget, expenditure, to education. Now that increased to 19.45% in 2028. And then in 2029, it increased further to 20.76%. So the total government expenditure, 20.76 was dedicated to the education sector. In fact, that formed about 4.03% of the total GDP. But in 2020, the allocation to the education sector reduced. The government did something around 18.4%. And in 2021, it reduced further to 15.52%. In 2022, it reduced again to 15.03%. And interestingly, in 2023, if you look at the budget, the total government expenditure, education formed only 12.97%. And that comes from the backdrop of the commitment by our president when he was selected as one of the advocates of global education, where they pushed that at least 20% of your government budget expenditure should be spent on education. In fact, that was a little bit disappointing to those of us in the education sector because we were thinking that going into that particular platform and advocating for increased spending in education, we were thinking that we would see an increase in the allocation to the education sector, but we did only 12.97%, and that formed something around 3.09% of the GDP, that percentage of GDP. So you can see from these figures that we have seen a downward slope in terms of government allocation to the education sector. And that is worrying. It is worrying because if you want to develop a country, as all the other panelists have said, the challenges that we're experiencing in the economy and so on and so forth, you would note that one of the critical variables, if you look at any of the growth theories that you would want to model, you would note that one of the critical variables that you have to pay attention to is the human capital. And if you want the human capital to contribute more to the growth of the economy, you need to invest in that. So we are not investing more in the human capital based on the data that are provided. Interestingly, if you look at even that allocation, you would see that only 17.1% goes into capital expenditure, what we call the CAPEX, that looks at the building of schools and ensuring that we have infrastructure, provide the needed resources for schools to run. And in ensuring that you are also making available a lot of opportunities for others to also experience education and giving them the needed resources to deliver quality education. But if you look at our budget, as for 2023, it is only 17.1% that went into capital expenditure. Goods and services got 21.4%, and then the rest of our education budget, which we always complain about, goes into compensation. So we are using almost 62% of the total budget that goes into education to pay the people in the sector. Okay, so that is how the budget has been for 2023. If you delve further into it, you will see that senior high school education, what we call SHS, takes almost 47.89% of the total allocation that is supposed to go, the share of the budget that is supposed to go into the goods and services and then the CAPEX. And basic education takes 4.43%. Okay, and that also gives you an idea, the priority of this government, that a lot of investment is not being done in the basic sector. The basic education has been starved with resources, has been starved with infrastructure. In fact, if you study the data from the Ministry of Education for the period of this government, you will see a downward slope in terms of the nature of our infrastructure for our basic education. In other words, you will see a complete deterioration of the infrastructure at the various basic schools that we have. And I talk of basic schools, I'm talking about public basic schools. And that is worrying because it means that we are not investing much in our basic education sector, and then we are pushing a lot of money into the senior high school level. Of course, the TVET is getting 5.31%. I must say that the government have made bold steps in terms of ensuring that there's a lot of investment in the technical vocational education sector. So we have moved from 3.1 in 2021 to 2022, 3.1 in 2022 to almost 5.3 in 2023. But that also saw an increase in terms of our senior high school from 45.5 to 47.89. So in any way that you would want to look at the 2023 budget, you see that there is some kind of focus on secondary education, and we all know the reason why that is being the case, because the government is interested in the free senior high school. But that has a big effect on our basic education, which is now in complete disarray. So we are expecting that as we move into a new budget era, we are expecting that there will be a reconsideration of this imbalance in terms of the allocation of the resources, first and foremost, in the education sector.
But so Dr. Anzi, what is the best way in allocating resources to the educational sector? You've said that the SHS is taking a chunk of it, basic schools are suffering. So what is the best way to approach investment in the education sector?
All across the group, what you normally do is to focus on your foundation. The fundamentals should be the focus. So we're thinking that the government should reconsider the total allocation process. The government should now look at the basic education. First and foremost, look at the capitation grant. You see, the capitation grant was increased to 10 Ghana cedis, but you look at the rate of inflation. So if you just oppose the rate of inflation with the increment in the capitation grant, it still comes to nothing because you cannot run the schools with that amount of money. So we are looking at a situation whereby the capitation grant will be increased further, maybe to 15 Ghana cedis or to 20 Ghana cedis. And that should be disbursed accordingly. So if you allocate it, there's also a difference between allocating the resources and then disbursing the resources. And I think my other panelists will agree with me. So on paper, you can say that you're allocating this amount of money to the basic schools, but how much do you really disburse? And that is also a problem. So we are thinking that apart from increasing the capitation grant, we should see to it that the total sum of money that is allocated to the basic schools are disbursed. We should also see an infrastructure upliftment in terms of our basic education. And that means that most of our CAPEX allocation should go into ensuring that we improve the infrastructure at the basic level. And definitely that will come at a cost. So the economists will talk about opportunity cost. It means that we need to now reduce our investment in the other subsectors in the education sector. And that is the investment that is going into senior high school education. And that we have said on several platforms that we need to think through it properly, think outside the box, and make sure that we channel some of the money that is going in there to the basic level. And at the basic level, we also have to do more of deprived school focusing. What do I mean by that? I think that we have to now map up, and I said this, we have to profile our public basic schools and see the schools that need more attention in terms of infrastructure, in terms of educational resources. And then we channel the resources to those schools. Because sometimes you see that there's allocation, but then the disbursement ends with the schools in Accra, in Kumasi, in Takoradi, in Cape Coast, the schools that are technically, you think they have the needed resources. So we want to see a refocusing on our deprived basic schools. And when we talk about deprived basic schools, we are looking at schools that do not have the requisite infrastructure, that do not have the requisite resources, that enable them to deliver the quality education that we want our children to get. And I think that if the government does do this kind of refocusing, we will see an upliftment of our public basic schools, and they will stand toe-to-toe with the private schools that are taking over from the basic schools, the public basic schools in the country now.
Okay, let me bring in Dr. Tano again. Dr. Yadom, so if you listen to Dr. Anti, he talks of how the Free Senior High School has taken a lot of these resources. What has been the impact of the Free Senior High School on the entirety of the economy?
So if you look at the impact of education on the economy, in the immediate terms, we will not be able to quantify it.
Okay.
But then we are expecting it to have a long-term effect. Of course, good fundamentals will tell you that the level of educated people should have a positive impact on productivity. However, I think the implementation of free SHS has a lot of problems. And it shouldn't be the case that access means that everybody cannot pay. And that fundamental problem must be addressed. I believe that there are people who can pay for education and they are willing and ready to pay for their children senior high education. But what government is failing to do is to sit down and to do the thinking. I think the challenge that government is having is how to be able to segregate and find out who should pay and who should not pay. But that is a responsibility of government to put a team together to find out the best way of implementing free SHS. Like Dr. Pitanti mentioned, if the allocation in education, we see education as free SHS, which means that we are going to leave the supply and the feeding. What is the supply? The basic education that feed into the senior high school and the universities that take up the output. Those that teach in in the universities will tell you that generally academic performance, especially from the 2020 going down, is reducing, in terms of what
the quality of students that are coming in.
the quality of students that are coming in. The numbers from SHS is telling us that performance is good. But in the university, when we take these students, we see that there's a lot of problems. I have met SHS students who cannot read and write. And I'm wondering, why should this person get into school? The person needs to go back and sit in senior high school. The fact that we want to increase access does not mean we should compromise with the quality. Because the fundamentals, what Dr. Pitanti has mentioned, that we are not investing so much in basic education to teach them the basic skills of reading and writing. And we are pushing them to the senior high school. So there's a lot of work to be done. I think that the next survey to do is we should be looking at the level of people who are graduating in first class, second class, and the upper and the lower. Then we will know that the output that is being received from the free SHS, is it good enough as is being showcased that by the government, that public, the SHS has both quality and quantity. I think the quality is lacking, and there's more that government needs to do. And the government needs to do the hard thinking of finding out how to separate those who can pay, those who cannot pay, and those who need to stay in JHS for some time to learn the basic skills of reading and writing. However, let me go back a little to.
I'll let you come back. I'll let you go back. But you said you've met a student in the university.
SHS. Sorry.
Okay, so an SHS student who cannot read or write English.
Yes, I'm not sure I'll be the only new person to have met somebody like that. I have met a couple that I have to personally find ways to help them. Okay, Dr. Yamga has a story to tell. I mean, I will not be the first person to meet a student and not in the university, but SHS, who cannot do basic reading and writing. And we have to face the reality.
But if that is in a senior high school, it means that they are coming from the JHS system. Can we blame Free Senior High School for that?
We are not checking the input. That is not everybody that has the basic skills to go to senior high school. They need to be repeated. They need to step back. Now it's almost appear like almost any grade you can find a senior high school to attend, almost any grade. So if the student know that I can go to school with a grade 36, why will I put in the hard work? I can go to school with a grade 40. Why will I put in that hard work? I mean, to be able to learn the rudiment and the basics of reading and writing. It's because we have opened up the entry gate to free SHS. But if you want a system that is rewarding, a system that will let people work hard for it, then there should be some mechanism. For example, those who attended the university so many years ago, around the 80s and the 70s, will tell you that if you write a common entrance and you pass, in your first year, if you don't pass, they give you, you come back to paying fees, although it is free. But if you don't pass your first year or your second year, you are coming back to become a fee paying. So we should be able to implement a system where if you don't meet a certain grade point, you become a fee paying. In that way, the system is rewarding, and it will be able to encourage the students or the people from JHS to know that if I don't want my parents to pay fees, then I have to put in. Somebody also will be talking about the fact that some schools in the cities or elsewhere will be buying past questions to ensure that their children will pass and get to the best school. It's a complex problem, but that is the duty of a government, to sit down to find out the appropriate means of implementing policy, not all play, all policy. I'm not sure it's going to help us.
Okay, all right. You wanted to go back to some point, clarify that, and then let's move on.
Yes, let me quickly do that. Dr. Ayamga mentioned the fact that the district assembly should not be blamed. I think that the fact is that I'm not saying that district assembly should be blamed for the rules of the government. What I did say, what I said was that district assembly, by creating more, we know that when you create more district assembly, it is a fact that government needs to spend more. Yeah. And for that matter, it will increase government expenditure. So I was making the point that if we want to reduce government size, which in the larger context, we want to reduce government expenditure, then the creation, we should have thought about a different approach of trying to improve district assembly development without necessarily in duplicating government effort. Because those things that are being done in the district could have been done from the previous district they were affiliated to, and we should not create the case, justification to spend more money in public services. And another point is that looking at the trend of the economic development, Dr. Yanga and myself will agree that if you are so high on an economic trend, you cannot just move down at a point. I mean, there should, if it just move down, it means that we will have to interrogate what happened, what caused the jump. I mean, so the downward trend tells us that probably government is doing something, that if the government continues, the trend will focus downwards, especially in inflation and exchange rate. The trend is likely to focus down, to go down, and eventually we will be able to receive the benefit that we are expecting. However, I do agree with him, the fact that government has got a lot of resources and we have higher expectation from him. For example, one of the things I will be suggesting to government is revenue from the oil revenue. We have been hedging cocoa prices for a certain number of years. Hedging does not necessarily make you do well, but it helps you to plan. The question is, why are we not hedging oil prices as well? The reason why government reduced its revenue mid-year revenue target from 18 to 15% of GDP can be attributed to the fact that they had estimated oil revenue with $88 per barrel, and they realized that the global market is not going to give them the $88 per barrel, so they reduced it to $74 per barrel. Now, you could have equally gone into hedging. I mean, to be able to, if you want to plan and have a certain expectation of revenue for your activities, then the same thinking that went into cocoa price hedging, we can also go into the oil exportation or the oil price hedging, so that to give the government the revenue, the needed time to plan and know the revenue expectation, and also be able to use the expected revenue for its budget. And the tax from the GRA have almost, for the past 3 years or so, exceed their revenue target. What it means is that probably the target we are giving them is too low, and government needs to rethink about it. Thank you.
Interesting, yeah. Okay, so let's delve into what we all expect. Let me start with you, Dr. Yamga. We've now known that there are challenges with the economy, and we in this fiction. The minister is presenting a budget today. What are your expectations in terms of what is to be presented in trying to turn around the state of the economy?
Yes, it is going to be determined by the minister that shows up in Parliament today. If it is going to be the optimistic, charismatic, Bible-quoting minister who would engage in fantasy rather than reality, then we can expect him to come and put forward wild projections that have no relevance and base in the economy, and only to revise them downwards in the mid-year. Or if he comes as a realist today, he was going to focus on 3 sectors. One, which is correct the structural problems that we have in the economy. The structural problems, I mean, our debt burden, which is not that straightforward, and our domestic debt exchange program and our inability to constructively engage with our external lenders is making us miss our targets with the IMF, and that is sending bad signals to investors and further dampening growth. I expect government to come with more concrete measures to cut expenditure rather than increase taxes. That is something we all agree with. And I also think that government needs to look at our exchange rate. So those are the structural issues that we are not making gains. All of us tend to describe what is going on currently as growth, but we drop from a very high level. So currently we are trying to recover, not grow. We are not back to the levels that we were. We are not even back to 2016 levels. Then we can begin to talk of improvement. So currently what we are doing now is trying just to recover. So I expect government to look at these three things, be more realistic about revenue, and then going forward. I expect it also to focus on inclusive growth rather than just looking at the monetary policies as rightly advocated here. He has to also look at fiscal policies. These two must complement each other. Unemployment is a key challenge, so government has to advance measures to address it. Otherwise, we face what many are increasingly describing as the youth quick here, which is likely going to cause very serious challenges. We have 13.3% of our workforce outside of government, and then complicating our hands with this IMF deal that says that we cannot, government cannot employ more than 0.5% of the workforce. It means that the private sector must become the engine of the recovery. And if government is crippling the private sector with taxes and making it easy for imports, then we are going to have a serious problem. We have inequality, which I think is becoming a huge issue here. If you live where I live, let's say like Kasalu, or if you get information where I get from my hometown forum, people are beginning to ration meals. People keeping meals just to make it in a day. When others are talking of bread and butter, it is food to eat, and you have others stuffing millions of dollars under their bed, even at where housemates have access to them. You can describe it as a seriously divided country where the poor are suffering. So I think that one, and also something to tighten corruption, will make Ghanaians happy. Lastly, I think that there must be something for the private sector. The private sector, meaning that it should be thinking of what can I do to reduce importation. That should be what should occupy the minister's mind when he enters parliament today. How can I reduce importation? In what areas can I reduce importation? Is there some industry there in Ghana that can even save me $1? He has to go through these industries, do whatever he can do to bolster them to produce, so that we target import substitution first before we think of export. That has always been a problem in this country. We think of export when we should immediately think of doing something that will lead us not to import. And that is where we begin to see growth.
Okay. Gentlemen, kindly hold on for me. Let me take all of us to Parliament, where the Minister will be presenting the budget, to find out what is happening there. Our Parliamentary Affairs correspondent, Kweku Asante, is standing by and joining us live now with details of what's happening in Parliament. Kweku, you are there. What's happening now?
Well, Brace, as we speak, Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta has not arrived in the House. In fact, if you look at the chamber floor, it is currently empty because there's not a single MP on site now. Understanding is that there are going to be a number of caucus meetings with both sides haggling over the key details. Remember, Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta had met both caucuses yesterday. In fact, yesterday he met the Speaker of Parliament as well as the leadership of the House to brief them on some of the key issues he will be bringing. And so at least what we know now is that MPs on both sides, the leaders, particularly on the Finance Committee, know what exactly will be in this budget that is coming today. And they have to firm it up by way of caucus meetings to try and understand what their respective positions will be. We know that the NDC have put out some specific things that they say that they will oppose if the Finance Minister brings that up. And let me take you through a number of them. They say that they will oppose any introduction of any new taxes. And not just that, they want government to review all the taxes that they had imposed over the last 7 years to try and give the private space and breathing room. Yesterday, the minority leader, the former minority leader, Haruna Idrisu, made that point. They say they want adequate commitment on the demolished La General Hospital. This has come up quite strongly on the floor over the last few weeks. In particular, the MP for Ladadi Kotopon, Rita Odole Soa, had raised issues. And just yesterday, the health minister was on the floor to brief MPs that a facility expected to be constructed at a cost of 68 million euros have now been revised downwards to 50 million euros. What would that mean? We want to see that in the budget. That's what the minority have said. They say that they want a compensation and resettlement that were affected by the Achimota Dam spillage and the floods that have come up in the Volta region over the last few weeks. They want a comprehensive resettlement and compensation package, and then they want cost-cutting measures. So the minority are clear in their mind what they want to see Kenoforiata bring out in the budget. The majority side have been quite muted, although they've also met the finance minister. They don't want to commit themselves so much. They say they first want the minister to come to the floor, tell the public what exactly is in the budget, and then if they have comments, they will do so. Mind you, right from next week, Monday, the debate is going to start in earnest on the floor. This week, MPs will do the post-budget workshop right here in this chamber. You know the controversy about going to Rock City Hotel in Kwehu, which some NDC MPs spoke against, and eventually the House had to beat a U-turn and now decide that they are going to hold the post-budget workshop here. So the demands of the minority, clear-cut, they've made the point, particularly about taxes, and they want to see some extreme reduction. Without that, they are going to be on the floor and vote against them. Already, the finance minister has told them he expects to raise between 11 and 12 billion Ghana cedis in new revenue. Where is he going to get that from? Is he going to introduce new taxes? Is he going to tweak the old taxes that are currently in force and increase the rates? We are expecting to see what the finance minister is expected to do today on the floor. So, Brace, it's going to be a showdown today. Of course, not Canada, Japan presenting the budget, but clearly the minority have signaled their intention to put spokes in the wheel of government if they come about introducing any new taxes and any austerity measures. Already, they've said that although they don't have the numbers, they have only 137. If the majority side are able to bring all their numbers to the floor, they don't get to vote against anything. But Brace is all out there for us to see today when the finance minister comes to the days, makes that presentation, and then we'll hear what the minority leader will tell us in terms of the position that this caucus has taken.
What the finance minister will likely tell Ghanaians today.
Well, the finance minister is expected to talk about revenue measures because some of the key issues that is currently in terms of the struggle for this IMF deal is the country's inability to raise a lot more revenue. And that is why Kenoforiata is seeking to raise 11 and 12 billion Ghana cedis for 2024. So that is key. We also know that 2024 is an election year. In 2016, the John Mahama government made a lot of noise about zero Bank of Ghana financing. And in terms of all the trouble that we've seen the Bank of Ghana face over the last few months, including protests that have called for the Bank of Ghana governor and his deputies to resign, we wish to see in this budget if the finance minister will commit to zero financing from the Bank of Ghana. But also, one of the key reasons why experts have said that this economy is struggling is successive governments' insatiable appetite to actually spend beyond what they collect in the country. So in election year, we've seen over the past few years that government deficit actually goes up because government spends a lot more money than they are able to raise. 2024 is election year. Not just any election, is very crucial. The New Patriotic Party say they want to break the 8th. That would mean there are a lot of projects scattered across the country that they have to invest a lot more money in and complete. If not, they're going to have a very difficult time in 2024. They have admitted that. So that may mean that government will be seeking to spend more money. Yeah. But that would mean also that government has to raise more revenue. If you are raising more revenue, are you going to introduce any more taxes? Government is really tight-lipped about whether they are going to introduce new taxes. In fact, over the weekend, when the Information Minister Kojo Oponkroma spoke to MFR Pawu on the probe, he spoke about growth measures and how government seeks to raise more revenue. But will this mean taxes, or this will mean that government is going to cut some of the expenditure items, some of the key things that you're spending money on to try and get more money to divert to other places? That will be seen today. But of course, our colleague Elton Brobe has also been working with sources in the finance ministry and has had some ideas. Already, the sources tell Elton that government does not expect to introduce any taxes. But as we've come to know over the years, when it comes to matters having to do with budgets, things change 5 minutes to the presentation of the budget. The finance minister can come in with a document, and 5 minutes before he gets on to present it, there are a few things that happen that will mean that he has to change things and introduce new things at the last minute. So until the finance minister mounts the days and makes this presentation, you cannot really say anything for sure. But that is also key. So 2 things is key in terms of what the finance minister will be presenting today: revenue measures, 1, and cutting costs. And 2024 being election year, are we going to spend beyond our means, which will mean that right after 2025, the economy is going to go back to relapsing the kind of tough scenes we've seen in the country post-COVID. And the minority say they do not want to be a party to that. And so if government brings in any austerity measures, government brings in any measures that they believe will worsen the plight of the economy, they will be on their feet to oppose it. Brace.
Do we know the exact time the minister is supposed to do this presentation?
Brace, 10 o'clock a.m., that is the advertised time, but over the past 5, 6, 7 years or more, the 10 o'clock time has never been adhered to because we know that there's a lot of jiggling that has to go behind the scenes. We expect that by 10 o'clock, the finance minister would have arrived here, maybe in the presence of the chief of staff and other senior government officials who may not necessarily be members of parliament, who will be expected to be here. Our expectation is that this will draw a little bit into the afternoon, maybe around midday, especially because the minority have signaled their intention to oppose certain growth measures, quote unquote, that government has put up. And so it will mean that the finance minister would have to still get a buy-in of his colleague cabinet members and the president ultimately. Mind you, the budget is presented on the authority of the president. It is his budget that the finance minister is presenting. And so the finance minister will have to get his buy-in on any changes, only last-minute changes that may be introduced before the budget will come. And so if anything we've seen over the last few years is anything to go by, we expect that this budget to be read anywhere between 11 a.m. and 12 a.m. In the past few times, it has gone beyond 12 a.m. But the Speaker of Parliament has been insistent that we need to get this done quickly enough, give MPs enough time to scrutinize the budget, scrutinize the proposals, so that from Monday when the debate starts, all of these key details will go in. So 10 o'clock is the time set for this presentation, but we expect that it will delay a little bit. MPs are currently locked up. A lot of them are coming in now, and we expect that very soon most of them are now coming into the chamber. There are caucus meetings that are happening all over the place, and so when that happens, we expect to get the key details in terms of the respective positions that the caucuses have taken. We expect that from 10 a.m. there will be a number of news conferences on the sidelines of the Chamber of Parliament in terms of what exactly is expected to happen. But if you look at the floor now, it's empty. There's not a single MP inside because there are a lot of caucus meetings happening on the side to be able to firm up positions. But around 9 o'clock, we expect that MPs will start coming in every now and then because of some of these key issues that they need to discuss, these key issues that they need to be able to take stances on. But this 2024 budget, Brace, of course, your guests have been telling you, is very crucial because government hopes that it will be able to leverage on the IMF deal that it has signed over the last few months and be able to improve the economy. And that is the situation that the minority say, well, they are in full support of any measures that government is going to take that is going to improve the state of the economy. But if you introduce measures that will worsen the plight of the ordinary people, in particular business, touted as the engine of growth, they will be in full force to oppose it. And Atoforsen has been on the days more than 3 times since Parliament resumed 2 weeks ago to make the case that his side will not be part of the impoverishment of the poor Ghanaian.
Okay, I guess now the Rock City is not coming on. In just the next 30 seconds, have you heard them speak about it?
Well, a lot of MPs are not going on record about this because it's not particularly a very sexy topic, because MPs are concerned about the backlash that they received when they decided to go to Rock City in Kwehu over the weekend. In fact, some of the things I've been hearing, Brace, off the record, is that some NDC MPs were actually not very, very confident about going to Rock City. We know who owns Rock City, Brian Achampo, a member of the NPP side, and NDC MP telling me just yesterday that they were afraid that some of their rooms may even be bugged because of the politics of the country. So NDC MPs are really excited because they were the ones who stood up in opposition to the post-budget workshop being held in Rock City. The rough estimates we've had was that it was going to cost in excess of 2 million cedis. Some have even put it at 10 million Ghana cedis, because if you're going to ferry 275 MPs, journalists, their drivers, security men to Rock City Hotel, it's going to cost that much. And MPs were like, no, this is a time of austerity. And if you're asking Ghanaians to tighten their belts, you can't be living largesse. You can't be living, or like Atofosi will say, you cannot be living a champagne budget on an Akweteshi budget. And so that's the point they've made. And so MPs, especially on the minority side, are excited that they're not going to go to Rock City. But the majority MPs who back the idea are now saying that, well, if we have to do in Parliament to show the Ghanaian public that we are also committed about the economic challenge that we are facing, then so be it. So on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, MPs to be expected to come back to work right here in Parliament for the post-budget workshop, where they are expected to go into the nitty-gritties of the budget ahead of the debate officially starting on Monday, committee sitting before the appropriation may be passed on the 22nd of December, when Parliament will go for Christmas break. Brace.
All right. Thank you so much. That's Kweku Asante joining us from Parliament there. Now, let me return to my guest, wrap up on this discussion. Dr. Eric Boakye-Yiadom. So as we are wrapping up, what do you expect to hear from the budget today?
The minister to behave like a caring government, to present the government budget, to look good in the eyes of the public, like the reporter mentioned, because if you look over the years, in spite of IMF program in 2012, there was a budget overrun of about 12%. I mean, in 2008, it was around 10%. They will set a minimal deficit of about, let's say, 4%, but I'm expecting them to really exceed it in 2024 to be able to fulfill most of their promises in the lead up to the election. And also, I'm expecting a recalibration of the VAT, so that businesses won't pay tax on tax. I mean, to be able to streamline the VAT collection. And also, I'm expecting that the government should be able to raise the revenue mobilization target for GRA to be able to bring in more revenue. I'm expecting a very hard, aggressive way of revenue collection from GRA going to 2024, because I do not see the government introducing new taxes, as has been popularly mentioned, because introducing new taxes will be shooting yourself in the foot, and it will also be a source for public demonstration, which will not make the government popular. So if the government is thinking about 2024 election, you should rather strengthen the existing taxes and ensure that they are effectively implemented. I do not know if the lithium production will come on. That will also bring in additional revenue to the government in terms of royalties and all that. So we're expecting the government to be nice to the people of Ghana.
Let me bring in a tax consultant, Eric Amponsa-Boateng. So I've heard people say no new taxes. People also have called for alignment of taxes. Doc has just mentioned something which is close to double taxation. We pay tax here and then pay tax on tax. What is your expectation in terms of what government will do in this budget in the form of taxes?
Thank you very much. First of all, I expect the COVID levy to go off because we've gone past that stage. And like he rightly mentioned, why should you put a levy on an amount? As we speak, we have the COVID levy, the Get Fund levy, and then the NHIL. And all these add up before we strike the VAT. I expect the minister to have a look at it. I think that because of what has been happening over the years, in recent times, we had the dam spillage, where even taking care of those who were affected became an issue. So I would recommend that if we take off the levy, the COVID levy, then we could probably replace that one with, let's say, a disaster relief levy of some sort. And then...
but wouldn't that again be compounding the challenges of the Ghanaian? We say don't bring new taxes, but if we should bring that...
Yes, what I'm saying is that we take off the COVID levy off and then replace it, because you realize that government has had issues taking care of those who are affected by such
disaster.
Natural, yes. And then VAT. I don't see the reason why somebody should be on the flat rate and then somebody else is on the standard rate. I expect VAT to be standardized, because there are people who are not even VAT registered at all, and we lose a lot of revenue. I expect also government to look at tax exemptions. They need to look at it. I also expect that they will look at even the tax audits that the GRE does, because some of them are really not doing the work as expected. I don't want to say much about that. And then finally, this year, we saw the introduction of the Income Tax Act 2022, where there is a portion which says that if you are already in business and you make losses, okay, you are still expected to pay 1% of your turnover. I don't think that if we want to promote growth, if we want businesses to thrive, if we want the GDP to grow, and we all expect that Ghana's CD will gain some strength, then I expect the minister to look at it. Finally, government expenditure. I think that in 2017, I remember Professor Aite, who is a former Vice Chancellor of the University of Ghana, made a point and was able to give us figures. And I think that that is having a toll on us. So I expect the minister to look at all of that. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. Let me bring in Dr. Peter Ante here. Doc, so in the next minute, what's your expectation in this budget for education?
Yes, I think that I would be more realistic. The first thing I would want to see is that in 2017, the Minister of Finance mentioned that there will be a voluntary fund created to support the funding of the free SHS in that particular budget. That was the first and last time that issue came up. I'm expecting that the last year of his office as a Minister of Finance, we think that the talk about getting additional source of funding for the free SHS is more pronounced now, and I think he believes it. So we want to see a reintroduction of that particular policy and how best we'll be able to do that. That will save us some money to support the basic sector. So we also want to see a commitment to funding for the basic level. We want to see a more pronounced commitment. We want to see an increase in the capitation grant. We want to see a direct policy to deal with deprived basic schools. And then we want to see a direct commitment to the eradication of schools under trees and all those other things, provision of textbooks, especially textbooks for public schools. We don't want the budget allocation to create a more unequal society. And that is what our budgets have been for some time now. We are using the allocation of resources to widen the gap of inequality, and that is not the work of government. The work of government is to use the allocation of resources to bridge the gap of inequality. But what we are doing...
Okay, so that's his connection there has gone bad. So I'm grateful to you gentlemen for joining us here on the big stories. Dr. Michael Ayamga, Development Economist and Senior Lecturer, University for Development Studies. Dr. Eric Boachi-Yadom, Senior Lecturer, Banking and Finance Department in the UPSA. Dr. Patrick is we couldn't get him, but Eric Amponsa-Boate is a tax consultant. Dr. Peter Ante is Executive Director, Institute for Education Studies. Gentlemen, grateful to you for joining us here on our show. This is still the AM show on Joy News. Also on the show today, we'll be talking about Achimota Speaks. Now, the speakers will talk about Ghana, a country in crisis, defining a new economic direction. The event itself is coming up on Thursday at the British Council, but we'll be talking about it here on the show this morning. That's up next on the show, so stay with us. Okay, so welcome back to the AM show. I'm going to talk to some people who are coming from a school, and they want me to push all my kids to the school because they say that if I don't push them to the school, my kids will forgive me. But we'll see about that. Well, on Thursday, November 16, 2023, the Old Achimota Association, OAA, will host the Achimota Speaks event on the topic Ghana, a country in crisis, defining a new economic direction. And we haven't, so that's the flyer you see on your TV, your screen there. We have Na Hassan Andani as one of the speakers, Professor Yao Nyako as one of the speakers, Frank Edu is also one of the speakers. We have Nana Dr. SKB Asante. So I derive my SKB from Dr. Asante's name there. And we have, I think, is it Kofi Finn there, and Bella Mundi will be moderating the section. Well, we have in the studio executives of the OAA to tell us more about this particular event. In the studio, I have Accra Joel Nete, he is OAA president, that's him there, and I have Accra Kwesi Okun. Says he loves to fight. Chairman, Achimota Speaks Planning Committee. Gentlemen, good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.
So let me start with you, Accra Jonet. And if we hear about Achimota Speaks, what is it? Tell us about that platform.
Okay, so the name Achimota will suggest something for Achimotas, but let me try and clarify. Achimota Speaks started, 6 years ago?
Yeah.
When Achimota turned 90.
Okay.
And as part of the 90th anniversary celebration, we came up with a platform that ran monthly. I'll tell you a little bit about the platform, the reason for the platform.
Okay.
When we leave Achimota School, as we leave, we're enjoying to go out as living waters to a thirsty land.
Okay.
Now that essentially means for everything that you've gained out of Achimota, go and be helpful to the world.
Okay.
Now the first part of your world, the most captive part is your country, Ghana. Yes? So in thinking, at the 90th anniversary, in thinking of what can we do to positively impact Ghana, we thought it's important that we create this platform where we can have conversations about the things that are salient to Ghana. So today is economic crisis. In March, we spoke about education. We've spoken about several topics. In the 90th anniversary year, we did one every single month. And from there, we decided, okay, you know what? Let's break this thing down and do it twice a year. So that's what we're doing now. So it's a platform by Achimotans as a platform that allows Ghanaians everywhere, from every school, in any part of the economy, whatever your challenges are, to have a conversation about critical things that matter to Ghana.
So even those of us from Badubo and Sosin Higher Technical School can be on
have
the
a front seat.
Okay.
And can be panelists, can be keynote speakers. You have something to say, come and say it on Achimota Speaks.
Okay. Next time, please, let's bring in a Badubo and person to be part.
You're welcome. We'll think about it.
So what really does the platform hope to achieve?
Like I said, it's a platform for conversations.
Okay.
I mean, there's so many things that are critical to this country. So many ways, and there are different people everywhere who may have an idea, who may have a possible solution. It's important that these conversations are had so that together we can forge a solid path for our country.
Okay.
So this really is a platform for conversations that will impact Ghana.
Okay. I guess the first one did. Let me come to Accra Okun. Why this topic at this time of day in Ghana's history?
Yes, that's a very good question, because it's something that we went through quite a bit. Looking for something to talk about is the hardest part of Achimota Speaks, because there's lots of problems everywhere. And as Joel said, we've talked about land, we've talked about education, we've talked about industrialization. The question now is, what is it that is really the topmost things that we should be having a conversation about? And we thought, obviously,
we're in a crisis.
We're in a crisis. It's the economy, stupid. So we decided that let's see what people want to hear and what they want to say about what we need to be doing. Not about what we've done or what we're doing now, but what is it that we need to be doing to come out of where we are. So we need prescriptions.
Okay.
I'm sure you have yours. Joel has his. But this is a forum provided by the OAA. So everybody who comes there will have a chance to say what he thinks ought to be done. But not just come and say what they need. To be led by people with brains, people who have good thoughts, who have learned the topic, who live it, and can direct us to have a proper conversation. And we hope as with all Achimota speaks, that whatever we say is being heard by the right people. So it will filter into their minds when they're making their decisions. Because after all, it's our lives.
Okay.
So we should have a part, a say in what we want to live in this country.
Okay.
So that's why we're having Achimota speaks at this time.
Okay. You have about 5 speakers or so. And these are, at least I know Nan Dani and Dr. SKB Asante well a bit because they've been in the national space for some time now. What kind of perspective should we expect from your speakers, Joel?
Okay, so just before I come to that, I just want to add a little something to what Akra said. In arriving at the topic, once again, we sample. And this, we ask the question, why a nation in crisis? Are we in crisis? That topic actually came as feedback from the people we sampled.
Okay.
What should we be talking about? And consistently, we're talking about the financial crisis. We are in crisis. We are in crisis. And that's
we have dialysis crisis.
It's
true. We have Galamsey crisis.
Of what the people who were spoken to said. And that's why that topic is, for me, is so critical. But your point about who's speaking, once again, format. The format of Achimota Speaks is it's led by a keynote speaker.
Okay.
And then after that, it's broken down into a moderated discussion. So our keynote speaker for this particular Achimota Speaks event is Professor Yao Nyako. Professor Yao Nyako is a celebrated economist from the New York University, awarded. So we're expecting that he would bring, of course, an international perspective, but more importantly, a locally relevant perspective to the conversation around our economy and what we need to do, what changes we need to make. Of course, like Akra said, analyzing where we've come from, where we are, to be able to determine where we should go. So once he's done with his 45-minute keynote, he then joins a very eminent panel. You've mentioned Dani, you mentioned Mr. Frank Edu, you mentioned Mr. Kofi Feni. These are all people in the throes of the economy and stuff that we need to do. Lots of experience. And so they then are going to come sit with Professor Anyako and have a conversation.
Okay.
Once that's done, we then throw it to the audience. So we've invited everybody. We've invited the ministry, we've invited the economic management team, every stakeholder, and every Ghanaian who cares to come in there and ask these eminent people questions. So for us, it's not just come and stand at the podium and speak at us, but we get a chance to engage, to question whatever you're asking us to go do. So together, we will walk away from that event on Thursday. That Thursday is tomorrow.
Tomorrow, yes.
With a sense. I mean, I don't think that it's going to be a solution, be or end all solution in one day. But we're going to start a conversation that will give us all a sense as to what are some of the things that we need to consider. Should we stop certain things? Should we start certain things? Are there things that we're doing that we need to do better at? Are there things that we are not doing at all that we should consider? Should we copy with pride what other people are doing in other economies? What is going to be the best thing for Ghana to go forward? That's the most important thing.
Nana SKB Asante is more on leadership. Is that what he brings to the table?
He's lots of everything. He's chairing the function, so he's not a panelist. He brings that, but he's done leadership. He's a lawyer. He comes with a lot of gravitas. So he's coming. He's going to help steer the occasion, but he's chairing.
Because when I heard you about the economy. You know, a lot of people have said that whatever is happening, leadership also has a big role.
Definitely.
So when I heard the other guys, I thought that, well, so Nana is coming in there to look at what leadership can do, you know, in all of that. But what do you expect to happen after the event tomorrow?
Well, that is between you and me and him and everybody else. As I said, we hope that the people who need to make decisions are listening and will have a good quality input into their thoughts. So we will not be able to say that Mr. Ex-Minister is saying this because of Achimota Speaks, but we know he would have heard. And it would have impacted on his thinking, and it will take part in whatever he decides he's going to talk about. This is what we are hoping will happen tomorrow after we've said all that there needs to be said. The audience have put in all their input. So it's not just us on the panel that are saying what we need to say. It's the whole country that's giving them advice on what we want them to think about.
And when it's done, we'll put it together in a document and we'll present that document to the people that matter, like the management team, with political party. For instance, the one thing that for us, we would hope that it won't go down into a political conversation. Because where we are today is really a result of successful
too much politics.
Government and politics. It's not an NDC conversation, it's not an MPP conversation. It's not this president or that president. Whatever it is, as a people, we are where we are.
Where are we going?
Where are we going? What do we need to do to move forward? So we're going to have that document, we're going to put it together, and we're going to give it to everybody who matters. hopefully it will inform whatever strategies they come up with. We cannot be in all the rooms all the time when these conversations are happening, but if there's a document that everybody that has been collated, people have spoken to, ideas are present on there, hopefully they will consult that document and take a decision. Hopefully for generations we can go back and say, look, this conversation that started here, this is how far we've been able to come, this is what else we need to do to move it forward. So like I keep saying, for us, it's important. It's an important conversation. It's a thought starter. Let's build on it. Let's start that conversation tomorrow. And as a people, let's rally behind it. Let's build on it. And let's together move away from where we are today.
To sum it up, we are sowing the seed.
Okay.
And we're going to watch it grow by giving all the support that we need to make sure that it rises up to the surface.
Well, people say Ghana is a country that loves to talk. We talk a lot, put fine ideas on paper, but when it comes to doing, implementation, that's where the challenge is. So how confident are we that whatever we're going to say, whatever you put on paper and present to whoever, will really find a space on a table where the decisions are made?
We'll push it. I can't be confident that anybody will listen, but it won't be for want of trying. We will, that's what I say, it's not to one person. We'll send it to all the people. We'll publish it. And we'll have as many conversations as we need to have to make sure that people are, to improve the chances that people will listen. We can't take a whip and go to people and say, you didn't listen to our thing, you didn't. No, that's not what it is. But have as many times as we need to talk, as many times as we need to talk to the right people, as many times as we need to start conversations that will point us in that direction. We are committed. Achimota Speaks is committed to doing this stuff.
And let me add to it that this is not a one-off issue. It's not a one-off conversation.
Okay.
As Joel said a little before, each year from now until our 100th anniversary, we'll be doing at least 2 Achimota Speaks a year. We'll go through the same thing about what we should be talking about.
Okay.
Don't be surprised that we find that we need to come back
on the crisis.
To the crisis.
Or to the economy. It may not be a crisis at the time.
Yeah.
But the economy. So whatever is relevant at that time.
Yeah.
Because Achimota is an educational institution, and given what you and I both know about how terrible the state of our educational system is right now, we will always have an educational topic every year.
Yeah.
But apart from that, we will always look for what is the most topical. So if for the next 3 years, for the next 5 years, the economy is the most important thing, we will hammer on this topic until somebody listens.
Okay. You said it's open to the public.
It is.
And it's happening where?
Once again, when you said the 16th, I'm like, okay, yeah, 16 may seem very far away.
Yes, just tomorrow.
Yes. Tomorrow, Thursday. And it starts at 6 p.m. Achimotan time. What that means is that we're going live at 6 p.m.
Okay.
So I'm admonishing everybody, I'm encouraging everybody, come at 5. Come at 5:15. Let's network. Let's start the conversations before the conversation, so that it even informs some of the questions and things that will come. So come early, anytime from 5, but be seated by 5:45, because at 6 o'clock live, we will start.
Okay. Okay, interesting. Maybe I should do a bit more of the economy with you. I mean, we're going to start, isn't it?
Well,
let's start the discussion.
Okay, happy to try. I'm not an expert, but happy to try.
I mean, you've been in the economy. What would you say is the main challenge with Ghana's economy today?
I think that we're generally, once again, you went back to the question about leadership. So we'll have a conversation about leadership. They say leadership is cause, everything else is effect. Okay, so in terms of decisions, what we should do, what we shouldn't do, I think it starts with leadership. Secondly, I think that if you go down back to the smallest measure of an economy, you look at your home. Okay, when you are spending more than you are making, you have a crisis. I think generally that's where we are as a people. Our expenditure generally exceeds our revenues. You have to ask yourself a question, and today they're reading the budget, interestingly. In terms of government revenue, where does government revenue come from? Typically, it's been the 6, 7, 25 of us who pay the revenue without expanding the tax net. Okay, so is that a place to start? And whilst you are doing that, what's government expenditure like? If we are traveling, we are going on all kinds of unnecessary trips and paying per diems and paying hotel bills, and we know what the issues are. So for me, that's where you start. Okay. And then, of course, you take the business decisions in terms of what brings in revenue. We should be a little more agro-based. Are we supporting agriculture? All of those things will come in. But it's, for me, the basic, the smallest, the least common denominator is expenditure over income. Let's hold that first.
Okay.
And then let's figure out how to improve our revenues so that we don't have to worry about exchange rates and worry about inflation, all of those things. Once we start earning more than we're spending, once we start able to generate income, it improves our chances of success as an economy.
So
but I'll leave the economists to opine on that. I'll leave the economists to give you more.
Exactly.
No, I was going to say that if you look at the Maslow triangle of needs, the hierarchy of needs, what Joe has talked about is we are right at the bottom. However, we need to make opportunities for us to rise. Everybody is suffering, yes, but it's the economy governance that is giving us the biggest problem. We are not producing enough revenue to go around. And yet our expenditure is always rising. And it will always rise. So we need to do more to create revenue, even for everybody downstairs. It means we need jobs. I mean, we've said this over and over and over again. So the structure of the economy is what I would like the people who are in charge to look at. If we don't go strictly on improving industrialization so that people get jobs and they get revenue and they can pay their taxes. We can't talk about paying taxes when already what they are getting, they can't survive on. You see what I mean? So we've got to give them something to live on, and then it's almost extra, although it is something you have to do. So my thing is on the structure of the economy. We have to look at how is it balanced. We are not doing enough to give people jobs and revenue. That's what I like them to concentrate.
We've always said that agric is like the backbone of this economy, but we've done very little on it. See, the poultry industry, according to the players, can create 1 million jobs if we do it and do it well. I went to a poultry farm some days back, and I was wowed by what I saw. I was like, wow, if we get about 1,000 of this here, we don't need to export any poultry product into the country. Today, Ghanaian farmers are growing a lot of rice, and delicious rice. Nigeria, their rice is not as good as ours, but that's what they want. They say when you go to Kenya, their rice is not good, but you will have to settle. Why can't we take such decisions to say, let's eat what we grow here? For example, for rice, if we're importing 100%, okay, we're going to do 30% of importation, 70% farmers do it. Those who go out there and import it, give the money, sign contract with the farmers, let them produce for you. Today we have processors, a lot of them scattered across the country. Why aren't we giving? Because look, if the processor is employing 100 people and is producing, say, 5,000 bags a month, if his production capacity increases to, say, 500,000, it means that he has to multiply those people by over how much?
Absolutely.
And that's jobs we're creating.
It creates jobs, absolutely.
Nigeria took the decision. Why is it that we can't take the decision?
It's not rocket science.
It's not rocket science.
It's just the will to take the right decisions for the betterment of the whole, as opposed to a few people who want to benefit. That's what it is.
Yes.
It's not. I don't think it's because we don't know.
We know.
It's in books. We see it. We read it. We know what we need to do. But we need to have the will to say, we know we're in a bad place. We've got to cut. We've got to do the right thing. It's not rocket science.
No athlete will succeed if he does not do.
But I mean, hearing that is not difficult, yet we are not doing it. In my mind, why can't we do it when it's not difficult for us to do? Our neighbors in Nigeria did it. Why can't we, Ghana, do it?
Because it comes back to leadership, isn't it?
Yes.
You need somebody who says, listen, this is where we need to go. Everybody tighten your belt. And these are the things that we need to do. And I'm going to lead by example. And I'm going to show you how it is that it's done. All of you follow me. Look, this is not going to happen overnight. We're not just yes. So we have to all be prepared for a certain amount of difficulty.
And work harder.
But there has to be a plan.
Yes.
So if you say, look, tighten your belt, and we are all tightening our belts, and we know that this is the plan. We're tightening our belts for 10 years, for instance. But this is the plan, and in 10 years, this is what it will look like. I'm sure most people will look at it and say, okay.
And by the way,
it's not the masses to tighten their belts, and we look up.
And we can't see anything.
You are not tightening yours.
It's difficult to say tighten your belt.
Okay.
And as I said, it's let's not get the idea that it's easy.
It's
easy to talk about. It's not easy. It's the balancing. It's the structure. If we say what you said now and want to do it, and yet we're saying that we need more taxes, and therefore we make the inputs for making what you want more difficult.
Expensive.
Where are we going?
Exactly, nowhere.
So it's a balancing. It is why we need experts who know we tighten here, we lose here, we tighten here, because the objective is to get more production into the country, get more jobs, and people get more revenue.
Okay.
Then we can talk about taking more tax.
Okay.
And we've got to be very deliberate about it. It's not.
It has to be deliberate.
Yeah, we've got to be.
So this is something of what's going to happen at the Achimota Speaks tomorrow, and that we've started it, and that's how it's going to be. So be there. Let your viewpoint be heard about the economy. What ought to happen for us to achieve what really we have to ensure that we build this Ghana together. Just before we wrap up, your last words, and then we can say.
My last words, I'd like to reiterate that this is an Achimota-generated platform, an Achimota-created platform, but it's a platform for everybody.
Okay.
So when you hear the topic or the platform Achimota Speaks, it's not an Achimotans gathering to have a conversation. This is a platform where everybody who cares about everything Ghana is invited and hopefully will attend.
Okay.
Let's come together, let's be on time, let's start the conversations. And let's just not walk away from it tomorrow and say, we went to Achimota Speaks, we finished.
Yeah.
Let's take some action points from that event tomorrow and let's go out and start implementing.
Okay.
So we're inviting everybody.
The bedroom, so people will be there.
Please.
I'll represent the school there.
Yes. Oh, I just wanted to add that we started this when Achimota was 90 in 2017. Achimota will be 100 in 2027.
Okay.
And we will have Achimota Speaks twice a year until then. In 2027, we'll probably go back once a month. But these are things we want to talk about. So anybody who has a burning issue that he needs to be talked about, talk to us.
Okay.
It may come up, rise up to the surface, and we want to talk about. But we are here to give people a chance to say what they need to say.
Okay.
That's what Achimota Speaks is about.
It's all
It's
about.
open to everybody.
Everybody. Okay. I remember the time, 5 p.m., right?
5 p.m. together. We're starting.
6. The venue. I can't recall the venue.
British Council Hall.
Okay, British.
And I want to reiterate the venue. This time, it's at the British Council Hall. I'm not even going to mention the old venue, but we've changed venue. So please don't go to the old venue. It's the British Council Hall. And we get there for 5:30. We're going live at 6. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for coming.
Thank you.
So Accra Joanete and Accra Okun.
Correct.
Okay, all right. Thank you guys for coming.
Thank you so much.
All right,
Have a good
all right, you too.
Nice
this is the AM show. We'll take a quick break. When we return, we'll talk about the Ecobank Joint Use Habitat Fair. Now, it's Wednesday again. Ketty Ecobank, the Pan-African Bank, will bring you the AM Business. Special Gardens are poised to offer potential customers amazing offers at this year's Ecobank Joint Use Habitat Fair. Stay on for this.
Are you looking for a safe, luxurious, yet affordable home? Special Gardens has just the right house for you at affordable prices. Ahead of the Ecobank Joint Use Habitat Fair, we caught up with the Assistant Sales Manager at Special Gardens, Ruth Amwa, to find out what unique offers they have available for potential customers.
So Special Gardens is a mid-level real estate development located at Oyarefa on the N4 highway, on the Adenta Ibri highway. So it's a gated community that we are putting up here. We are building townhomes and apartments. So we have about 217 townhomes and we have about 25 apartments or condos. So for the townhomes, we have 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms and 4 bedrooms. And then for the apartments or condos, we have just 1 bed and 2 bedroom condos. So the townhomes, we have the terrace townhomes, that's the 2 bedrooms, and the 3 bedrooms we have the semi-detached and the end units, and the 4 bedrooms you have the semi-detached and the detached. So all have their own prices. And the good thing is all our units are en suites. So all of them have toilet and bath inside. You don't need to share a toilet and bath with each. Yes, and then we also have amenities in the community. We have a garden area. Once you enter the community, that's the first thing you see. So you have a garden area, we have a multi-purpose sports courts, or let's say an astroturf. Yes, so where like the sports area in the community. And then where the condos is located, we have a retail space on the ground floor. So the retail space, we have the grocery, the pharmacy, saloon, barbering, and then I think we'll have some ATMs over there. So I mean, there's basically everything in the community. You don't need to go out there to do anything.
So this happens to be more of a small city within a city. What is the land size?
So it's 17 acres. It sits on a 17-acre of land, and the homes are about 240 in total. The condos and the townhomes together, yes.
Talking about condos and towns, probably I have the idea, but to a layman out there who doesn't really understand what the condo homes is or the townhomes, just run me to what is that basically?
So condo, so it's a short form of condominium. That's like apartments or flats. So let me say apartments. Yes, so those are 1-bedroom and 2-bedroom apartments. So the 1-bedroom apartment is going for $99,000, and the 2-bedroom apartment is going for $129,000. We started selling off plan from 2021, and we have less than 10 units of the apartments left. And with the townhomes, phase 1 is sold out, and phase 2 is almost sold out. So we will have our first people moving early next year, let's say by February 2024. Our first people will move in. That will be about 25 to 30 homes will be handed over to them.
Are these rooms fitted, furnished? Run me through.
Okay, so the rooms are fitted, yes. So we have ACs fitted in all rooms, wardrobes, and also the kitchen is fitted. We have, we also have an extractor, stove, microwave, and fridge in the kitchen, and it's fitted, all cabinets and everything fitted. But it's not furnished, so we don't give you furniture. Yes, but it's fitted. And then all rooms are en suites. Yes, so there's everything here. So you only need to bring your furniture, your bed, and that's all.
No. The company, being privately owned, seeks to provide housing solutions to clients looking to invest in quality properties in Ghana. Coupled with a flexible payment plan, buyers stand to enjoy discounts on all purchases made from Special Gardens.
Okay, so the first one we had in 2021, I think that was when we started Special Gardens. So we're just kind of creating awareness for people to know what we are doing here in Oyarifa. So basically just trying to get small clients. And then at that time, we still started selling at that time, even though it was off plan and there was nothing here. We were able to get few people, but not as much as the second one. The second one, we had people come to our stand to see what we had, even though our model home wasn't really ready. After the fair, we were able to invite people who came to the Habitat Fair to come and see the site. And some people were able to buy. Some people also referred us to family or friends who also ended up buying. So right now that we have a sample home and we have few things ready, I think we are coming with full vim. And I think this time around, we'll get more sales from Habitat Fair.
Talking about coming with full vim this time, what should you expect from your side? What are you telling the potential homeowners out there?
Okay, so I'm letting them know that we have something good in here in Special Gardens, and you are going to get value for your money. As for that one, I assure you, because our homes are really beautiful, and where it's located in Oyarifa, it's a really good location. It's just by the roadside. It's not so far from Adenta barrier. Like, it's really, really close to town. So when they come here, they will see that Special Gardens is a community on its own, and there's everything in here. Like, I mean, you'll be comfortable here. And I also want to tell them that if they are purchasing the property in Special Gardens, they are actually not throwing away their money. They're actually buying something good, and it's actually a good investment. So for those of you who want to buy Special Gardens or who want to buy a home to live in, it's also a good place to live in. And those of you who want to also buy for investment, it's really good because the return on investment is about 7 to 9%. If you are buying it to invest, it's about 7 to 9%. And for those of you who want to just buy and have your family here, it's also good for raising your kids here because the community is beautiful. I mean, you get a lot of connections.
Built by a driven team of experienced developers, the houses have many unique features ranging from state-of-the-art washrooms to in-house speakers in all rooms in the house.
We are heading to the bedrooms. All bedrooms are upstairs. So you have the master bedroom and the other bedroom to upstairs. Yes, so I'll take you to the master bedroom first to show you, and then I take you to the other room. Yes, so.
And I could see some interesting things here.
Yeah, so actually this is a sample home, and we finished it. So we actually finished all these things. But your house doesn't come with all these things when you buy it. We actually finished them.
Right, so I'm seeing 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom. Just take me through what.
Okay, so this is the master bedroom, and this is the other bedroom. So let's go to the master bedroom. This is the room, and then we have the walk-in closets. Yes, so this is the walk-in closets. So this fitted for you. When you buy your home, all the rooms have walk-in closets. In the master bedroom, but the other bedroom has like just a standard closet or window. So this is a walk-in closet. Yes, as you can see. I mean, it's actually spacious. You can put a lot of things inside and you'll be fine. So this is the walk-in closet, and then we have the bedroom, and then we have the master bath. So let me take you there. Yes, the master bathroom.
Now, before we even go to the bathroom, I'm so interested in the discount bit. You made mention of it. Once again, talk to me. What should they expect percentage-wise?
I'm going to give up $5,000 to $10,000 off to those who visit our stand. And that one also depends on how much you are locking in with. So once we have the list of people who came in, we know that, oh, this so-and-so came to Habitat Fair, so all these people are going to get discounts. So depending on how much you are looking in with, so for 50% and above, you are going to get $10,000 off. And between 20 to 49%, you are going to get $5,000 off. Since it's between 5 to 10, I mean, some may get 7,000, some may get 6,000, some may get 8,000. Yes. So between $5,000 to $10,000 off.
Definitely, I would want to try this. I hope I can sit in this. Okay, yeah. It comes with, oh, interesting. So when I have this apartment, it means definitely I'm getting all this. Is that the case?
No, you're not getting all this. This is our sample home, as I explained earlier. Okay. So we finished what you see here. So it's just the room, the AC, the walk-in closet, and the master bathroom. Yes, you don't get the bed and all these things.
Let's do a quick look at the master bathroom. It's also quite interesting here. So what do we have here?
So this is the master bathroom. So we have the double or dual vanity here. And then we have a sensor here. This is the mirror. Okay. And we have a small wardrobe here where you can put your towels and other things inside. So the central water heater will also be fixed there, as you can see. This side. Yes. And then you can put other stuff here. So more space. And this is the bathroom. It's so spacious. I mean, it can take two people. Two people can shower here.
According to Assistant Sales Manager at Special Gardens, the company is committed to ensuring the safety of customers.
With our payment plan, it's very flexible. So if you are living in Ghana and you are working and you have an okay salary, maybe we can give you up to 30-month payment plan. If you think the 30-month payment plan is not enough, you can actually take mortgage from the bank. And we are using FNB, Stand Chart, Stanbic, and Republic Bank. Those are the main banks we are using, we are banking with. So once, I mean, you can't pay everything and you can put down initial deposits, the bank can support you. So, of course, you'll be able to live here. I mean,
these are some of the offers you guys have for these potential homeowners.
The offers we have for the potential. So, okay, so we are letting them know that if they want an early move-in, phase 2 is almost sold out. So they should try and, I mean, rush and come and buy, because we are giving them $5,000 to $10,000 off for those of them that want to buy it from us. I mean, when we come to Habitat Fair and then they are able to come to our stand, we are going to give all those people $5,000 to $10,000 off, depending on how much you are putting down. So for the $10,000, let's say if you are paying 50% and above, you are going to get $10,000 off. And for the $5,000, let's say for between 20 to 40%, we can give you about $5,000 off. And also, for phase 4, we are offering 30-month payment plan. If you want to go for phase 4, we are giving you 30-month payment plan. But the standard payment plan is actually 24 months. So if you want phase 4, we'll give you 30 months. That's like almost 3 years. So we give you more time to finish paying. And also, as I mentioned earlier, that the first people will be moving in next year. Yeah. So if you want an early move-in in phase 2, you need to lock in now. And we are going to give you a whopping $5,000 to $10,000 off. Yeah. And also, there are other things we may offer to new homeowners. Yes, there are other things. So, I mean, depending on the day we have with you. So, we want to have a welcome gift for all those like who purchase our properties.
So, basically, we are currently on phase 1 of the project. They are basically the same buildings, but you know, this is a 4-unit apartment, and this is a 6-unit. When you look down there, you see that we have an 8-unit apartment, and we have some detached buildings. So they are basically the same thing, but just that every block has the number of units in them. So that's what we have at the moment.
Customers also have the opportunity to have houses constructed in models of their choices.
In relation to the Ecobank and Joy News Habitat Fair, this evening on X Spaces, we'll be doing, some live interaction there on the topic unlocking the secret of home ownership, and we'll be joined by William Danso Abiam, Head Director Direct Banking, Ecobank Ghana PLC. Nanaya Japan is Head Consumer Marketing, Ecobank Ghana PLC. Dorothy Kwashe is Executive Director, Elegant Homes and General Construction, and Winston Wobel is Head Advantage Banking, Ecobank Ghana PLC. It's today, 15th November at 4 p.m. on X Spaces, and I'll be hosting that event. So let's meet and talk about how you can become, your own landlord. Now, escape to the Royal Kuzil Hills Hotel in Jirapa, Dubai. There's Xmas season. You have seen the rest. It's not time for you to see the best. Take a break from the work. There's Xmas, and take a break from the south. The Royal Kuzil Hills Hotel, Jirapa, Dubai is the place to relax, rewind and re-energize this Xmas holiday. It is a way for you to get away from the stress of the south. Now, this is what awaits you when you go to Jirapa, Dubai. Unforgettable safari experience, amazing array of wildlife, including lions, hippopotamus, zebras, ostriches, among many others, using our spacious and well-secured game tour vehicles or using squad bikes. Also, we have water sports such as jet skiing, boat or canoe rides, among others. Various family games to keep you and your families excited every day of the Christmas season. Great tourist attractions in the Upper West region, including Mushroom Rocks, Leaf Caves, etc. So escape from the south, go to the north, go to the Royal Kuzi Hills Hotel, Jirapa, Dubai for an unforgettable safari experience this Xmas season and beyond. Call 0501694280 or 0248844463 for reservations or further enquiries now. Okay. Now, before we go, happy 18th birthday to you, Sean Tomaides. Okay. Sean is a former student of Laboni Senior High School and the son of host of the Diplomatic Affairs TV show, Harriet Nate. Sean, may this milestone usher you into a year of incredible adventures and unforgettable moment. You were great sharp and greatness is yours. May you continue to shine brightly on your journey ahead. On behalf of everybody here at Joy News, I say enjoy your day and do have a brilliant celebration to you, Sean Tomaides. Well, on that note, thank you for being a part of the show today. We hope that we'll meet again tomorrow morning. Until then, please be good. Up next is the news desk with Aisha Ibrahim. Good morning.